A night in with MauLer and the drinker, getting trashed with the web screen dinkers. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Hop up the cork, have a glass of wine, that's they'll say I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, MauLer and the critical drinker.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. After a week off, we're back with the open bar.
Oh, my God. Extra special episode. It's like 2 in 1 now.
69, bro. The strip club intro was perfectly appropriate for this one, so I appreciate that one. And yeah, I'm still mesmerized by the fact that your avatar doesn't really have a neck. You know, when we're both talking right at the end and like nodding backwards and forwards, it's like you've got like a disembodied head, just like
it's
going
part
up
of the
and down.
mystery. It's
it's like Skeletor's neck. What really joins that skull onto his body? Who knows?
We'll find out one day.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about tonight, so I think it's about time we bring in some of our guests so we can get cracking with this insanity. There's been a lot going on while I've been away. It feels like everything's kind of falling apart in the world of comic book movies, so it's great. I go away for 1 week, and this is what happens. Anyway, well, making her return to the open bar, it's been a good few months since she's been on, and it's always a pleasure to have her here. It is Baggage Claim. Welcome back to you.
Hello, and welcome back to you, drinker. Like, I'm sure you had a great vacation, and now you're ready to go and just rage against the world.
Exactly, yeah. I had like a week of peace and tranquility, just like sitting on the shores of the Adriatic, just soaking up some sun, and then I come back to Scotland, and it's raining, and it's like a storm brewing right now, and I just thought, perfect, that matches my mood. I'm ready to go, so let's do this. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm not jealous of you in the slightest living out in Southern California at all. It's just totally fine.
It is. We do have an 80-degree weather day today, which is nice and warm, not too cold, not too hot. Loving it. And it's October. It's October, but
yay!
You never know with that stuff.
Yeah.
It's Spooktober. All right. Well, anyway, let's bring in our next guest. It's been a while since he's been on, and he's just barely survived his debate with Director X. But welcome back to the open bar, Mr. H. How's it going, Nate?
Thank you very much for having me back. It's good to be here.
No, good to have you on, man. Thank you for coming in for this. And yeah, I'll be interested to hear about your experiences talking to the director of the modern epic that is Robyn Hood. I can't wait.
Hell yeah.
He called all of you out. He called everyone out.
He's probably watching this right now. Who are we kidding? But no, good stuff, man. And last but not least, we have got Mr. Chris Gore, or Frank Gore, depends if he's been drinking yet.
That's true. I turn into Frank Gore with a few drinks. Baggage Claim, I didn't know that you're in Southern California area.
I am. Are you? Northern California.
Northern California. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, sorry.
I'm in Pasadena. So,
very nice.
Quite enjoyed your video essays. They're amazing. Mr. H, you're doing God's work with the Director X thing. Wow. You might have been too nice for me. Like, I don't know.
There was a tactic. There was a tactic there.
No, it worked. Yeah, it was very professional. Yes, very.
Yeah, got to let people hang themselves. That's
he did the job for you. So
we will. We'll look forward to hearing more about this shortly. But the first thing I was going to talk about this evening is the Marvels is almost upon us, and I know you're all eagerly anticipating this movie. It's been in the making for literally years now, what with all the delays and reshoots and stuff. But we won't go into that too much at this point. But what I will say is it's not looking too good from a box office point of view. In fact, the box office predictions came in, and they are currently eyeing, what is this? Yeah, the Marvels is heading for a $75 to $80 million opening, roughly 50% lower than Captain Marvel, the original movie.
Wow. How
And
optimistic.
72% lower than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And we know how that movie turned out. That was about 470 odd million that it ended up with. I think they're actually being optimistic with this prediction, to be fair, as you said, MauLer.
Yeah, I mean, Ant-Man would struggle to get Ant-Man money if it came out today. Like Quantumania, I mean. Like, it's like, you know, it's only going further down and down for every day that passes. And for every fucking thing that they throw out, it makes people even more like, like,
Well,
what's the next one?
This as well is a movie that cost $275 million to make. Not that you'd know it from the VFX, but it did apparently. And that puts it in the top tier of Marvel films, not in terms of quality, but in terms of like the sheer cost of making it. And by my calculations, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but factoring in marketing and distribution costs, you're looking at roughly 800 million just to break even on this one.
And that's why it's the shortest Marvel movie, or one of the shortest.
Yeah,
88
I've heard about
minutes.
this. Is that true? It's sub 90 minutes.
No, I actually believe that it's an hour 45, so 105 minutes, but they tested an 88-minute version. So an 88-minute version was the first version of the film that they did a focus group on it. My understanding is it scored a 35 out of 100. They did some reshoots, changed things, got to the longer version, which tested lower at 28 out of 100. So.
But I bet you like 45% of it is just cats and just kittens.
Sure.
They're like, let's just hedge this.
You know that whenever they're editing and moving things around, there's just this giant red button that says delete the whole film that they hover over every once in a while.
I honestly think that might have been a worthwhile thing to do in this case. Like, they could have Batgirled it. Or like, I'm sure it was one of the pieces of feedback that they got from a test screening. Like, this is the kind of crap that we would dump onto Disney Plus. And I thought that's perfect. It just seems to describe the movie perfectly.
It looks like it. It looks like a Disney Plus show. Although, oddly enough, and this might help the movie, it's being released in China, which is not every Marvel movie. It's not a guarantee that every Marvel movie will be released in China. However, in China, the movie has a different title. It's Captain Marvel 2.
Oh.
If you could look up you can Google image, find the poster for Captain Marvel 2, because in order to understand this movie, right, you have to have seen Captain Marvel 1. That makes sense. You have to have seen Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus. You have to have seen WandaVision on Disney Plus to get Photon's story. Again, so much homework for viewers. I think that the big reason for the low box office, and I've heard estimates as low as 50 million for the opening.
There was, I think, wasn't there one which was saying it was going to get around 39 million? 39 million was the initial, and then it's crept up bit by bit.
Well, it's according to this report from Deadline, it's actually gone down because the projection is down from the long leading tracking, which was 90 million. For the opening weekend. So now it's down to between 75 and 80 million. I've seen other reports that suggested it could be as low as 50.
Yeah, because the pre-sale for the tickets are way worse than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They're like awful.
Yeah.
72% lower, apparently.
Yeah, which puts it around the $39 million mark.
It's there's just nothing to recommend it. And I think when you said that, like, Photon was that character's name, that was genuinely the first time I'd heard that. Like, I was just like, it's Monica Rambeau. That's all I knew about her.
Right.
So she's called Photon now, apparently. Okay.
Yeah.
That 15-minute backstory she had, and you have to watch WandaVision for that, and then you got to watch Loki, then you watch.
Oh, that's right.
Ant-Man. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's kind of we've I guess covered it before, the idea that like this movie couldn't really rest on Captain Marvel's shoulders by herself. She wasn't enough to support it. So they tried to dilute the problem by just adding in these two extraneous characters, neither of which has any real pull and power. Like, they're not big actresses that are playing them. They're both based, or they were both introduced in Disney Plus TV shows that not that many people watched in cinema going terms. And so there's just there's no draw there.
They even gave Ms. Marvel away for free. So Ms. Marvel was originally behind the paywall on Disney Plus, worst viewed out of all of it, terrible. And then they gave it away for free on ABC, and then it was still bad. No one tuned in. Terrible, even when they give it away for free. So they
I don't. Yeah, and I don't even know if it was necessarily a bad show because I never watched it, but it just seems like no one cared about it. And there wasn't much to pull people in because it was a teeny bopper kind of show. If you were like 15 years old, you might find something there, but like otherwise there was just nothing to get people invested in it. And there was no particularly big names involved in it either. I'm just looking at this report from Deadline actually saying that some people critiqued that the promotional campaign was launched much later than other Marvel campaigns, which would typically drop at least 12 weeks in advance because they were hiding the trailer. I think they were kind of embarrassed by it.
A long time ago, didn't we? Feels like it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of this problem comes down to the strikes and stuff as well. Like they can't do that much promo work for it. Some sources are also telling them that audiences aren't connecting with the Captain Marvel IP. And that the other two characters in the franchise, Ms. Marvel and WandaVision, those were the shows which introduced those other two characters, neither of which was watched by that many people. Yeah, funnily enough, we're also told that the Marvels is well below the top performing MCU titles amongst men under 35. Who could have predicted
Shocking.
that? I know.
The biggest movie-going audience doesn't like your movie.
I would have thought that men would love seeing men get humiliated on screen. I just don't understand it, you know.
Don't men love doing that and going and paying money for that? It's funny. I feel like we're all feeling very smug right now because it's like finally they're facing the consequences of all their actions and things we've all been talking about for years now, that you're going to alienate your audience into the ground. And that's exactly what's happening with this movie.
Yeah.
God. So
it's you know, ultimately reality does come at you pretty quick, particularly when money's concerned, and this seems to be the position they're in now. There's ultimately going to be no hiding that final box office tally. You know, they got away with the first movie because it made over $1 billion. Can't deny that. You know, it's you could debate the reasons for it, where it was situated in the franchise. I saw a video from Dave Cullen today which summed it up perfectly. It's like Captain Marvel shouldn't have been introduced in Phase 3. They should have waited until after the Infinity Saga. She was crowbarred in because they knew that the excitement was at such a level for the end of this big cinematic journey that they've been on for the past 10 years that they could launch basically any character during that time and it would be a huge hit. But realistically, she didn't have anything to do in Endgame. She was essentially nullified in that.
Kevin Feige told us it was really important. She played a really important part. Come on, you calling Kevin Feige a liar?
Well, I mean, there was all those rumors, weren't there, about two different versions of the film? One that had a lot of Captain Marvel in it, and the other version which had as little as possible, and that's the one they went with. You could question the reasons for that, but I think we know why. They knew, I think, even back then, the character was not popular with fans, however much money the film might have made.
I don't know if it's so much the character as the casting. I think Brie Larson is just incredibly unlikable. You could see that character or a version of that character working with a different actress, say someone more likable like a Katie Sackhoff, right? Or you recast, it's a different tone, but there was a tremendous amount of tinkering with Endgame and a lot of things talked about behind the scenes. Obviously, it came out that Jon Favreau was really upset. They had told him, like, look, Tony Stark, the character, is going to die. He's going to sacrifice himself and die in it. And Favreau argued it was a bad idea. This is a bad idea. Don't do it. And of course, they write off the futures of Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, I thought. And looking back, it's a huge mistake. They even toyed with the idea, because I knew someone who worked at POW Entertainment at the time, Stan Lee's company, and who told me that one of the ideas they talked about was Captain Marvel going, that basically the Avengers are defeated. So they're defeated, they lose, right? Which is the vision that Tony Stark sees. Captain Marvel goes back into the past and plucks younger versions of them, and they recast the original Avengers.
Ooh.
This was an idea that was talked about. And even if you watch Nerdrotic, he was talking about, there's that book about Marvel that just came out, and they talk about how they want to recast Tony Stark and Steve Rogers and get that happening as soon as possible, because they realize, hey, these legacy characters really do have a lot of value. So.
I don't see how you can recast them. Like
I mean, James Bond, how many James Bonds have we had? How many Batmen have we had? Like, you could take, I mean, I think it's possible it would be a different take, but I think what you'd have to do is tell different stories, like tell a Captain America story from World War II or in the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the whole killing off Tony Stark thing goes, it was my understanding that Robert Downey Jr. kind of wanted out by that point. He'd been doing it for 10 years and he was kind of tired of it and he wanted to move on to other things. So I don't think it was necessarily all the studio or whatever mandating this stuff. It was partly the actors that were getting ready to move on. I think Scarlett Johansson was ready to move on to other stuff. I think Chris Evans was probably ready to go as well. That was probably a mistake on his part, really, because he's not done much since then. But
I don't even think he wants to. He almost seems resistant to being this big movie star, which is why he held out for contract negotiations for so long, right? In the beginning, I'm sure you guys could confirm this, that he didn't want to sign this long contract because he was almost afraid of becoming too famous.
Right.
I'm not sure what his attitude was towards the being an A-list star or anything, but I think after doing the role for that length of time, he was probably wanting to move on to other things. But I know, like, you referenced that book there, Chris. There's reports coming in as well, like, and it references that novel or that novel. That book about this, that Brie Larson's reportedly disillusioned with the Captain Marvel character following fan backlash. This is a report here from Screen Rant. Captain Marvel actress Brie Larson could be leaving the character behind soon, as a new report claims that the MCU actress is disillusioned with the role. Her first movie as Carol Danvers was a big success, grossing over $1 billion worldwide. But many toxic groups emerged to attack the movie and Larson, and the hurtful comments have not stopped since. Now, new information suggests this could be the final movie for Larson as Captain Marvel. So this is from the MCU, the Reign of Marvel Studios. It says Larson grew disillusioned with her role. Marvel Studios put Brie Larson in a prominent place in the MCU. I don't know if Brie Larson was the wrong person for the role necessarily, but the toxic backlash means that Brie Larson doesn't want to play Carol Danvers anymore.
I think that's a smokescreen. It would be a nice theory, right? That's why she wouldn't want to continue. But let's be honest, we all know what actors want even in Hollywood. And Captain Marvel's role was not as good as it sounded. Overall, it was one role in 2019, and then a series of cameos for the next 4 or 5 years,
and downgraded.
But the thing is, like, if it had been a big hit with fans, I think it wouldn't have been a series of cameos. I think you would have seen her have major roles in the MCU throughout Phase 4. It didn't happen because they knew that she wasn't popular, and they spent all this time trying to find a way to fix her. I mean, it says here, like, the future of those Marvel icons was unclear. The departure of franchise anchors like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Scarlett Johansson had already taken its toll, as had the loss of Chadwick Boseman. But other MCU stalwarts were heading for the exits too. The Guardians of the Galaxy cast went on a farewell tour, and Brie Larson grew disillusioned, and Marvel tussled with Sony in a custody battle over Tom Holland. So that I can understand, right? If you feel like you're on a sinking ship, the last thing you want to do is handcuff yourself to it.
Yeah.
You know, that was probably that feeling of like, right, all the cool kids are leaving now. I don't want to be part of this thing anymore because it hasn't been a great hit for my career. It hasn't given me more opportunities, and it's really just made me less popular amongst the public. And now everyone else is leaving anyway. I just want to get out myself. So I can totally understand that.
And she's not even getting to headline her own movie as an individual. I think the fact that they are downgrading her, I mean, that's a massive ego hit for her. And she's like, I don't need this.
So I think there is some credence to that report of her being disillusioned and things like that, because around the time that sort of unauthorized / maybe authorized book was sort of being made, there was that Vanity Fair interview where she's on the red carpet and she's like, I don't know, does anyone want to see me? I don't know. And it was very like self-aware. People hate her. And she's questioning just outrightly. She's like, does people actually want to see me here? But obviously, you know, quite facetiously as well with it all. So I think there might be some credence to that. But I mean, the fact that she's got, you know, the sequel to $1 billion movie is an ensemble cast. Give over. Come on now, it's not successful, is it? You're not gonna change the formula. You just don't. That's not what Hollywood does. They stick with the formula. They replicate the formula. They do it until that cash cow is bled dry. So no, they've changed it because it wasn't successful.
She must be at least somewhat smart enough, or her agent is smart enough to know that this is just like in a way like Shazam, where it's like, look at our big multi-hundreds of $1 million movie, promoting it. Woo, I'm a movie star. Like the people who are in it and stuff, and then it just like crashes, burns, no one cares, moving on. You know, I'm going to get a sequel. It's done. It's like I was a huge superhero in a big budget movie, and now like what now? And it's like, yeah. And Captain Brie Larson is probably aware that she was sold on the fact that big people go to become bigger in the MCU. Okay, that's a career maker right there. And then that disillusionment, because I can buy that she would claim like, oh, there's mean comments online. It's like, yeah, sure, okay, that's why you stopped. But it's like, let's be honest, the career opportunity was not what it was sold as. And even that weird like, go and improve your PR, like doing a YouTube channel for a year. She probably looks back on that like, what the fuck was that? Like, I could have been making, you know, I could have made like 4 or 5 indie films and possibly, you know, got another Oscar or something. Like she's probably thinking of the alternate timeline. But too late. Yeah, I don't want to describe it as sold out, but let's be honest, you didn't approve of the Captain Marvel script because, oh, that's an Oscar winner right there. I got so much potential. As is famous for a lot of people's assessment of the film, she barely got to act in it. She was just meh. And I'm trying to, I guess, give her some credit that she's capable of acting, not necessarily capable of making everyone like her in interviews, because that seemed to be something of a personal problem she had to deal with. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney gave her trainers for that as well, people to speak to and everything. But if she's having conversations with people who know what's going on with Marvel right now, they're telling her it's dying. And your movie's not going to make a profit, and Captain Marvel's going to be squirreled away. So, yeah, I'd be disillusioned too if I was here, because I'd be like, this is shit. I was supposed to be the next Iron Man or something.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting because when you go back and watch some of her older interviews, and I mean really early on, because she kind of blew up really quickly because of that Oscar she got for that part in The Room. And but you look at anything before that, and she's so humble. She's actually charming. She's actually nice. She's you know, not Robert Downey Jr. charming, of course, but charming enough to have done well enough. But you can just see that switch, that something came on where she turned her personality, and now she, you know, was larger than life in her own head. And I interpreted her starting the YouTube channel. I didn't look at it as if maybe her PR team had pushed her. That could very well be the case. But I thought she looked at it as, wow, people really don't understand how wonderful I am. And it's because of the layer of the media and whoever else is manipulating how I'm being perceived. So let me go straight to the people and show them. And her whole persona on her YouTube channel is to try to just bring you in, right? This is who I really am. No makeup, no filters. This is who I am. And I think even that didn't really pan out for her. I think it did well enough, but not the kind of success that she wants. She wants superstardom. She wants those kind of numbers. And it didn't do that. So even when she was at her most honest, most open, face-to-face with the camera, and she's doing these little things like, I'm nervous in front of the camera. It's like, no, you're not. You're a celebrity. We know you're comfortable.
You're
you
a
don't have to
freaking movie
pretend
star,
on our
yeah.
account. Yeah.
That's why I thought it was all
it.
like just set up and constructed. I just didn't buy any of it. Like
Well,
that, it would
no
have
one
been.
does. That's the problem. Like, there's nothing more unnerving than like one of these weird manufactured Hollywood celebrities trying to act like a normal person, and you're like, hey, fellow humans, I'm just like you. You know, look at this bare room that I have behind me that like shows how humble I am. It's just it's all. Yeah, it's all just, you know, it's like every celeb has a humble room that they can film shit like that in, and it's just so weird. I think if I was to guess, and I was to be somewhat charitable, I would say perhaps she read the room wrong. She saw all of the Me Too stuff in Hollywood. She saw all of the real rise of, like, you know, actresses and women like taking back control of everything. And thought that's what I need to like hitch my wagon to 100%. And that's perhaps the change that you mentioned there, Baggage Claim, because that I think was coincided timing wise with that switch in her persona. And it's like, again, I don't even know if she believed any of that stuff. I don't know if it's just a slightly like empty person just saying, this is what seems to be popular right now. I'm just going to say all this stuff because I think it'll get me praise. Or whether she did believe it, I don't know.
So I think between both of you, you're completely right, actually. So I think actually, if you analyze her early career, she used to be a singer, right? She's always been very fame hungry. And I actually think both of you are completely right. And like changed, thought this was right. This is a bandwagon. Because now look at her, right? Now look at her. So she had all of that sort of, you know, Me Too nonsense, all that kind of stuff. Then she was like, okay, I need to humble myself. I need to get down with the people, be normal. But what has stayed and permeated in culture has been her on that SNL, whatever it was, show in a black dress and her cleavage hanging out. And now if you go to her Instagram, she is showing an awful lot of flesh by comparison to what she used to do, which is a completely different, you know, Brie Larson in terms of, you know, how she's presenting herself to the world. So now she's trying to sex herself up. It's like there's literally like, oh, we're in the sexy Brie era. Before we were in the, you know, the misandrist Brie era. They're just different eras of Brie. It's fascinating to watch.
It's a bit of a sad. It's a bit of a sad way to live your life, though. I mean, I know, like,
it's super sad.
It's the fame game, so I know they all have to chase it, but at the same time, it's like, you know, it's like I'm just constantly showing people what I think they want to see, rather than showing my own opinions on anything. And it's just a bit of a weird, you know, like hollow way of having a persona. Like, I feel like, you know, we referenced guys like Robert Downey Jr. before. Like, I feel like he's probably more honest about who he is because, you know, he's lived his life and it's been very public, a lot of his failings and a lot of his missteps, but it all adds to his character that we have come to know a little bit. And I think he's never tried to shy away from that, in which case you kind of get a sense of who the guy is. But with her, it's, I don't know, man. It's just like, I'm whatever's popular right now, I suppose. And I'll say whatever I think is going to get me the most praise. And in a sense, then I kind of feel bad for all the shit that she's taken over the past several years, because probably a lot of it was just, you know, misdirected at her when it was stuff that she didn't even believe in the first place. It was just her trying to be popular.
Bingo.
You know?
I would say that based on the number of actors that I've met, they don't have opinions of their own. They don't have even thoughts of their own. They're saying what they need to say to continue to work in this industry. So they parrot views that are accepted. That's what it is. And not to say that there aren't really smart actors out there that are strategic in their careers, that avoid politics, or that avoid even alienating the audience and sort of stick to what the job is which is to entertain and tell a story. And you've got someone like, look, Robert Downey Jr. famously, when they were making the first Iron Man, he was paid incredibly low, and Jon Favreau had to go out of his way with extra insurance to assure the film would get made, because we know about his struggles with drugs and alcohol. I mean, he's since cleaned up, obviously, but he's learned from that experience, knows who he is, and is much more grounded, right? And he oozes charm both on and off screen. Having been in the room at some of the San Diego Comic-Con events where they have the Avengers there, Robert Downey Jr. coming out was like it was like a rock star. I mean, he came out, it's insane. So, but he's lived some life. Brie Larson is in many ways a shell, having had fame at a young age, you know, something of a music career, and then also she's won an Oscar. It's not that she's not talented, it's that she really is just an empty vessel, kind of saying the things she thinks she needs to say in order to be popular. A lot of times these are things that it's not for the audience, it's for the industry to hear her saying those things, like that famous speech she gave about A Wrinkle in Time and how it's not for 40-year-old white guys. Look,
she must so fucking regret that now, because how many times has that been referenced?
Yeah, and it's so ignorant, and it's so I that comment really bothered me. It really bugged me, because look, we all want more seats at the table, right? More seats, more diversity of opinions, more people coming to the table. But to vilify one group, I think that always leads to a bad place. And
it was just
that's
the
popular.
sass too. That just the sass, and there was this anger, the way she just did it. It was just so hostile. And I think she read the room, that Hollywood had this wave coming of a certain type of feminism. And I do think she was opportunistic from that perspective. But in a lot of ways, I think she also bought into that belief system. And I think my guess, could be wrong, is that she looks back at those comments and says, I stand by all of that, and you peasants just don't understand that, you need to be educated about what is the right perspective to take when it comes to diversity. And the thing is, with Robert Downey Jr., he walks in, he has all this machismo, he has all this, arrogance but it's so charming, because we can, as human beings, feel that this is just part of the show, that at his core, he's actually a very humble person. Like you were saying, Chris, that he's very grounded, having seen the life that he's seen. And that's what makes him so likable, is that he's so grounded. And I think no matter what someone's words are, if you feel that this person is not humble, if this person is genuinely arrogant, there's no way you're going to like them. Doesn't matter what they say. Oh, I'm here for diversity. I'm here for the homeless. I'm here for animals. It doesn't matter. If we can pick up on that feeling that you think you're better than everybody, there's nothing that's going to fix that.
I have a quick story. I actually had the opportunity to meet Robert Downey Jr. It was I was working for G4 at the time. It was the junket for Scanner Darkly, Keanu Reeves, and Richard Linklater. So I was doing the junket. It's my job. And Robert Downey Jr. has a bit part in that film, and he was at the junket. And it was the day that it was announced that he was playing Tony Stark, Iron Man. And I went in, look, my job is ask these celebrities questions. And I've known Linklater for years. I mean, he's just, to me, masterclass indie filmmaker. Slacker is still a classic for those of you who've never seen that movie. But I talked to Robert and just congratulated him on it. And the one comment I remember he made, he said, I'm just happy to be in a movie my kids can see. So, because when you think of the types of roles that he's taken in the past, I think Less Than Zero is one of the best things he's ever done. I mean, it stands as one of his just incredibly memorable roles early in his career, as a drug addict. And it's fantastic. But he has lived some life. And if you remember, he was nominated for an Oscar for Chaplin, didn't win, but the guy was at the height of his career, kind of threw it away, and then was making the comeback. And that's kind of Tony Stark's arc in a way, right? Someone who learns to be, who's a narcissistic a-hole, who learns to become a selfless, more well-rounded human being, right? Like, I still have problems with Endgame, quite a few actually, but how are they going to how is Marvel even going to recapture this? I mean, does anyone care? Does anyone even remember that Captain Marvel? Does anyone remember? Maybe I'm the only one that does. The chat will remember. The chat always remembers.
Chat always remembers everything.
The chat always remembers, like Pepperidge Farms. The end of Shang-Chi, Bruce Banner and Captain Marvel somehow reach out and communicate with Shang-Chi and Katie.
Oh god, yeah, I remember.
To recruit them, right?
Why?
Like literally, they plucked Mark Ruffalo out of his apartment, like in the middle of eating pizza and shit. Like he looked like so crap.
Yeah,
and he wasn't the Hulk anymore. He wasn't smart.
What else went on with him? It's just like
Never
you Hulk,
explained.
you Professor Hulk, you regular, but it's just like.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so disconnected.
Ultimately, I think normies have checked out. There's too much homework. There's too much work to being a Marvel fan. Even for those of us that like these kinds of things, and it's just it doesn't feel. You could palpably feel as for phase 1, 2, and 3, they were moving towards something. Obviously, right? Minor appearances of Thanos, the building with the Infinity Stones, it led to something. But what? And it's been aimless for 4 and 5. It's just been aimless. Incredibly aimless. But what I'm told, and I'm only passing on the info, so don't shoot the messenger, that the last 2 episodes of Loki are going to contain a cataclysmic event that will affect the entire Marvel universe.
No way.
Oh my god, Chris, you mean like every other movie and TV show that's happened over the past 4 years?
Yeah.
Or like Loki season 1.
Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying. So if you look at the last 2 episodes, they come out leading right up until the last episode of Loki takes place on the day that the Marvels opens, which is November 9th. Okay. It's only 6 episodes, November 9th. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's enough to make me care. I think it's too little too late for me. It's too little too late. I mean, I suffered through the episodes of Loki that I've watched. It's just, it's also not even Loki, the character. I'm sorry. I've pivoted to Loki before.
No, let's go full Loki right now.
Oh no, can I just say one thing about Robert Downey Jr.?
Yes.
Everyone keeps saying how down to earth. You haven't seen him now. Now go look at him. He's not down to earth at all. Holy shit!
Now he looks dead. Like that's what veganism will do to you, man.
Yeah.
Just not down to earth anymore. Oh my god! Just as an FYI.
Yeah.
The
drugs finally caught up to him.
But I mean, he did a really good interview on Joe Rogan. Where even Rogan asked him, you think you're going to put on the jersey again and go back and do it? See, I just think the mistake was probably killing the character. They didn't need to kill the character. The character could retire.
Oh, come on. Like, nobody stays dead. Like, there's a million ways he could be brought back so easily.
Well,
but MauLer, I think
MauLer
said, like, straight up, like, the minute they bring back Cap and Iron Man, that's when you know the MCU is fucked.
Right.
Beyond all redemption,
glass in case of emergency sort of move, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Loki was their go-to. They kill him off and then bring him back immediately. It was all like, "Oh, psych, he's not dead."
Yeah.
Well, that's how we're getting Wolverine back. Is like I'm not playing this character ever again. It's like, oh, but this is a multiverse thing. That's different. That's fine.
I tell you as well, like when Scarlett Johansson hits 40 and those mainstream roles start drying up, she'll be back as Black Widow. Guaranteed.
To be fair, she's like an actual actress.
She can act. She can do stuff, but like you know how it is with actresses. Like once they get to about 40, they're not cast anymore. Charlize Theron is one of the very rare ones.
Evil witches, this you can always do that.
She can play the wicked stepmother.
Keep the checks rolling in.
That's so sad.
I just think
like
that's
once you
what she
pass
would do.
40, you're just like an evil witch, and that's it.
That's how Hollywood is. It's brutal. I mean, it shouldn't be like that, but that's
the funny thing is,
but it is. I mean,
60% of the motivations of the evil witches is getting their youth back.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we'll talk more about Snow White soon enough. But yeah, sorry, you were going to talk about Loki a little bit because Chris, you've seen the first 4 episodes,
right?
You've seen ahead of the rest of humanity, so you're one of the privileged few.
Ahead.
Now, full disclosure, I couldn't give a fuck, so you can just spoil away, sir.
Here's the thing. I've seen it, and I don't give a fuck. I really think all of
There's
these
probably nothing to spoil.
There's nothing to spoil. I mean, I can tell you what happens in episode 3 and 4 if you care. I don't really care, and I've seen it. But all of the Disney Plus Marvel series and the Star Wars ones, for that matter, they're all completely dismissible because it never ends, right? And I always looked on these Disney Plus Marvel shows is kind of like the prequel comic that would come out before the movie of the inconsequential events that happened between this movie and that movie. Some stuff happened, none of it mattered, and so here we are, right? We're just gonna get you like, oh, did you know what Captain Kirk was doing before Star Trek 3? Well, this is what happened, and they'll do a comic book on it, and none of it matters. And that's what all the Disney Plus series are for me. They do introduce a variant of Kang, a Jonathan Majors playing this. He's sort of got a Frederick Douglass type of haircut. So it ties in. The next episode ties directly into the final, the end credit scene in Loki, or excuse me, look, Ant-Man 3. So Ant-Man 3, you know, that you see it's sort of like the 1800s. You see Loki sees the character's name is Timely, and he's Timely.
Victor Timely is the name.
Yeah, and he's basically he's an inventor, but you come to find out he's basically a con man and a charlatan, and he auctions off the rights to a new power source he supposedly created, which is all BS, and then is chased by people in that timeline, but they need him because they need Kang's essence, and then it's
Chris,
stupid.
I can't believe you spoiled all this.
Who cares?
The greatest storyline ever written, and you've spoiled it for all of us. How dare you? It's so bad.
It's so terrible, and nothing seems to matter. And there's always a thing that the actors in the scene think things are important, but I found it so unimpressive when I think it was the first or second episode. They're looking at the timelines and the branches are going away, and the one woman looks at the screen and says, "All of those people," and it just I laughed
completely. Yeah,
I laughed. I was
so
like,
seriously.
But it's look, it's not as if that can't be done, right? Like, look at Alec Guinness's performance in Star Wars when he said, you know, that line, "Thousands of voices cried out and were suddenly silenced." Like that's
what happens when you get a classically trained stage actor,
right,
to do a line like that. That's not what we have now.
You know,
actually proper performance. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, sort of a TV actor delivering that. It just, it was weightless, no weight. To that statement was awful, and that's what Loki is. Yeah,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go right ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say the weight part. That, you know, watching Loki, you don't. Even if we do a comparison, right? Kang is supposed to be the next big villain of the piece, but when you look at the old Thanos scenes, there was that gravitas. Every time he was on screen, you felt it. You felt that this character is significant. It's important. Yeah, there was menace. There was that aura about him. And then every time you look at Kang in that first season, I mean, I haven't seen the 2 episodes where they actually introduced him in the second season, but in the first season, it's like walking into an empty office and he's just hanging around, just, you know, like just being goofy Kang, like and it's none of it has any weight to it. So it just feels like a massive joke. Even in this current season, this one character asks Mobius, right? Isn't that his name? Owen Wilson's character, Mobius. Asks him about, what is this? He's asking him about jet skis. And then they're talking about jet skis now. This is like the 3rd time in the show they've talked about jet skis, even though it's completely useless. And then the character's like, "Why are you talking about jet skis?" And Mobius is like, "Why did you ask me about jet skis?" Like, this is the dialogue. And it just feels
right.
like they're filming in this abandoned office where there are people in the background, but it all just feels so fake.
I mean, it's when you talk about the lack of weight and the lack of consequence to this character, like imagine if Thanos was introduced and the first time we saw him, he was killed off by a tertiary character in a Disney Plus TV show. Then imagine the second time we saw Thanos, he was killed off by fucking Ant-Man.
Yeah,
you would have a hard time buying into this guy as like a world-ending threat. It's like, nah, you've had your ass kicked by like fucking nobodies. Like, why should we be scared of you again?
Yeah, and did he get a talking down to by Cassie too? Didn't he get like?
Oh, probably. Yeah, she probably told him to stop being a dick or something, or be better or something.
Yeah.
Go to more protests, Kang.
With
make the world a better place with your fucking like Chinese manufactured iPhone. Yeah, that'll help.
With Thanos, it was a singular person. It was a singular entity. So you've got one figure to focus on, one sort of menace, one power source, one driven factor. Mm-hmm. With Kang, we're introduced to multiple Kangs, and they've each been. He is the definition of cannon fodder villain, because it's just we can just pop them out. It's like a popcorn machine. Just a billion Kangs. It's fine. Each one will get killed with it. There's no weight because. There's not a tangible villain. It's not one person. It's a billion of them, and apparently they can all just get killed anyway. So it doesn't matter. It's not like Thanos, where it's just this physical, imposing, force of nature. It's just Kang.
Yeah, and they keep saying, he's coming. They keep warning us that he's around the corner.
Yeah, it's like you can only build him up so much. Eventually, you have to deliver on this. Whereas with Thanos, like he was just kind of there, and if you were familiar with the comic books, you knew who he was. But like they let his actions do the talking for him. But the perfect example of what you're describing, Mr. H, is Agent Smith from the Matrix films, right?
Yes.
The first film, he was this terrifying, menacing force. There was only one of him, but he was so dangerous that he could defeat almost anyone. And it took everything that Neo had. It took him becoming the one in order to defeat this guy. Then in the second movie, there's like 1,000 of him, and you get that ridiculous fight scene where he's like just killing him, like beating the shit out of like dozens and dozens of them at a time. It's not scary anymore because he's no longer a character. He's no longer a tangible thing you can wrestle with. He's like I don't know, like a rising tide or something. He's meant to be like a force of nature, but like when you see the hero defeating many instances of that same character, he isn't scary anymore.
Yep, 100%. It just and there're just so many the other thing about Loki that I think is worth noting is it's not even Loki anymore. This was the Loki who was the complete a-hole from the first Avengers, right? Loki's character changed through the Marvel films. And this isn't that Loki. Just because he saw some scenes of his life, he's changed by that. I don't buy it. And he's depowered, he's deballed, in my opinion. It's just not. It's not.
He's a 100% pussy in this show. Like in that first season, where he's like holding on to Sylvie at the end, and like she's telling him exactly what he needs to do, and he's like choking back the tears, and he's like, "I just need to know that you're okay." Like, what the fuck is this? This isn't Loki. The Loki from the Avengers movie would never have said or done any of this stupid shit. He would have killed her within about 2 minutes of meeting her and taken over and done everything himself. Because
you haven't been watching it, right, Drinker? They've made some efforts to try and curb that in season 2. Yeah. They like in the second episode they made him torture this Brad guy in the most like lame way possible. But there's like sentiment about like, you're not truly a villain, are you, Loki? Is the villain still in there? Bit of my old self coming out.
The thing is, like, when you've seen your hero like fall over and vomit and piss his pants, you can't unsee that. That's like what we've got with Loki. It doesn't matter what badass things you have him do in season 2. You're not going to undo what you did with the first season. You've ruined his character already.
Absolutely annihilates any chances. Like there's like a cut or music, whatever, and then you just have Tom Hiddleston be like, "I have to save my friends." It's just like, what the fuck? I've never.
You don't have friends. You shouldn't have friends. You're
it's not
Loki.
even. if you get Loki to a point where he wants to save someone's life, you'll never hear him admit that. Like you'd have the Ragnarok thing where he comes in and he's like, "Look at me! I'm the one who's powerful, saving all of
about
you
me."
idiots."
You know what? They
you know?
did that right from the first 5 minutes of the first episode of season 1, where they had him get punched in the face by like body positivity space cop, and you just got that ridiculous slow motion thing of his jaw going like as he gets knocked out. That's it. That was your chance to do something cool with the character, and you absolutely blew it.
I mean, Loki.
MauLer, do you remember in episode 2 of season 2, Mobius and Loki are talking about how Loki was really angry, and that's why he held all of New York hostage and tried to take it over with an alien army.
That's
and
why
that
2012 happened, is because he was angry.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
it
because he had a
seemed like
calculated plan or anything. It's like, no, it's just angry.
it was just anger. It was their whole perspective on it was like he just needed a therapy session, and that would not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly surprised
He
it
just needed a
wasn't.
stress ball. He needed a stress ball, and that would not have happened.
I'm honestly surprised that it wasn't reframed as like, well, he was angry because a girl turned him down, or like he was feeling inadequate as a man or something. Because that seems like where they would go with the MCU.
With Loki, I think it was even in Avengers, wasn't it? He ripped a man's eyeball out.
Yep.
Yeah.
We go from him literally
Loki
ripping a man's eyeball out just to get in somewhere. I don't care.
And he loved it. He's loving the attention, the fear.
Yeah, there's a key moment that like I think they try to argue in season 1 of Loki, like he did it all for attention, or he did it all like he was a good man underneath, but they're just like no. When he gets that eyeball hit out and everyone is screaming and running, he looks around and he's smiling. He's so thoroughly enjoyed.
Like, he's a sadistic villain, and he was good at it. It was fun.
Well, you remember that great dialogue scene when he appears in Berlin and he forces everyone to kneel before him.
I am a god.
One guy is like, I'm not going to kneel to men like you, and he's like, you've never met a man like me before, and it's just like utter confidence that he projects.
Avengers 2012 is the best Black Widow movie. It's the best Hulk movie, at least in the MCU, and it's the best Loki movie in the MCU as well.
I know Joss Whedon has such an up and down reputation with people, but I think he writes certain things so well, because I've always been a really big Firefly fan, and for me, the Reavers, which are the bad guys in the Firefly series, are just the most frightening. Like I watched that show first when I was like 17, and I just the idea, because they don't even show you a Reaver at first. All they tell you is what they do, and I'm not going to repeat it because it's actually very disturbing to me still. But like what they do to people that they find, and like that's the thing that Joss writes his villains with like true villainy at heart. Like he really drives that home, that the consequences of losing to this person are going to be really dire. He really doesn't hold back, but of course I'm sure he did for Avengers because he had to make it a little more palatable. But Firefly, he like went for it.
But it's the same with Serenity. You had Chiwetel Ejiofor, right?
Oh, he was great in that movie.
That is a truly terrifying villain, because that guy, as a character, truly has strength of conviction. Everything he's doing is completely bang on for him, and it could be the most disgusting, awful, atrocious things, but he believes it's right. And that's a good villain. That's what makes a good villain. None of this like, oh, well, I'm a lovable villain. No, go away. Again, Loki, when he was a menace, when he really was loving it, again in Avengers, that's a good villain. Conviction. Now he's a wet wipe. It's a joke. It's a fart.
In Serenity, by the way, one of his like intro scenes, the villain, he is giving orders to his men while executing someone very casually. He's just like, and then like when the sword goes through, he turns to him and says, "This is a good death." Like, it's fucking scary. Like he did an excellent job. It's like one of my favorite roles for him. It's one of the first ones I ever saw of him. Great actor.
So well acted.
Yeah, great. Like remember we could have great villains. I remember that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. I think at this point, everyone's like, "I'll take Joss Whedon back, please." Like,
please.
I don't know. Do we want like current day Joss Whedon, like maybe 90s or early 2000s?
Yeah.
Joss
if we could
Whedon?
get an era of him, it would be late 90s, early 2000s. We'll have that one.
Yeah.
There was one as well from J Mill. It says, "Why doesn't anyone think the bigger issue for Marvel is that it may have been the departure of the Russo brothers? Every bit of testosterone and relatable storytelling left with the building with them, plain and simple."
Disagree.
The Russos did a lot of good things.
It might be fair to say that they're not the reason Endgame sucked. It might have been like tooling around with that. Would have been the most tooled around film in history, probably, right?
Oh,
so
God,
too much money on the line. Because the thing is, a lot of people to this day are like, Infinity War is very much doesn't feel like it was made by the same people who made Endgame. Completely different teams, it almost feels like. So but apparently it was them, and of course they got out. Much like a lot of directors always wanted to get out of MCU. That was Joss Whedon gave up doing Infinity War and Endgame. It's like, how do you give that up? And it's like, that's how much he did not fucking like working with Marvel. Same for Edgar Wright. Same for, what is it, like a laundry list of directors at this point, writers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Loads. Ton of them.
Yeah.
And
Got through almost as many as Star Wars, I think, at this point.
That book you were talking about, like, I think Gary was probably going to have a deep dive into it at some point, which will be really interesting. But there's a lot in there that gets casually said about, like, the creative process. And it's neat because, you know, when you're looking at it from phase 1 and 2, you might see it as a building up, strengthening, like safety nets put in place. All this stuff's going to build this amazing empire. But at this point, it's the thing that completely destroyed it, right? All these like these ways of trying to make sure everything's safe and careful that just doesn't interest anyone anymore. It's really sad.
Well, you know, speaking of things that don't interest people anymore, here's this this report about Daredevil. Born Again getting completely canned and taken back to the drawing board. So they had already filmed 8 episodes of a 16-episode season, which itself blew me away because they are not known for doing more than 10 episodes per season, or Marvel and Disney Plus. But they were planning to do it with this, and yeah, they're saying that Daredevil has hit the reset button as Marvel overhauls its TV business. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. It didn't take long to see the problem after Marvel Studios' Daredevil Born Again paused production in mid-June during the writer's strike. Fewer than half of the series' 18 episodes had been shot, but it was enough for Marvel executives, including Kevin Feige, to review the footage and come away with a clear-eyed assessment. The show wasn't working. So in late September, Marvel quietly let go of head writers Chris Ord and Matt Corman, and also released the directors for the remainder of the season as part of a significant creative reboot of the series. The Hollywood Reporter has learned the studio is now on the hunt for new writers and directors for the project. Yeah, so this is an interesting example of, like, if it was so bad that they wouldn't put it on Disney Plus,
real bad.
That must have been horrendously bad.
They approved all those other shows. How?
Well,
I just think as well, if you want to do a Daredevil show and you want to make it successful, I don't know, here's this crazy idea, right? Why don't you hire the writers who did the Netflix show and see if you can get them back?
Yeah.
Why would we do that?
They did a really good job with that one.
Well, I mean, at this stage, we can call it Daredevil Born Again. Again. It's constantly being reborn, this thing. But
Born to Die Again. I think that's where we're at this,
right?
I think what's so egregious about that entire report, right? What is so revealing? They filmed what eight episodes, right? They filmed about eight episodes, and it took the writers' strike and the actors' strike for them to suddenly go, "We best review some of that footage." Actually, why would
I tell you what, I don't think they did. I think what it was they already knew that it sucked. But the writers and actors strikes gave them the force majeure clause that they can invoke in their contracts to say, we're going to cancel this. And they don't have to pay anyone any compensation because it's an act of God. If it happens during a strike, that's something they can't control. They can kill the project and they don't have to pay any like financial penalties to the writers or the directors. That's the genius. Well, not the genius of it, but that's the way it worked in their favor in this instance. Yeah, it's opportunistic. It's like, I mean, in a way, it's a tiny glimmer of hope because it's like them recognizing this is a problem. What we've been producing is shit. We need to stop making shit and make stuff that's good. I know it's revolutionary, but here it is.
Well, can they even recognize the difference anymore?
I have no hope.
I don't know.
I do not think this is going to turn out. They signed off on She-Hulk. All right.
Yeah.
They were like, that's brilliant. We'll get
That's
that
great.
green light. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, this article from the Hollywood Reporter actually highlights an interesting difference between how they commission shows on Disney Plus versus how normal TV shows get commissioned. Because normally, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, you would do a pilot for a TV show. The pilot would get run by network executives. They would all vote on it. And if they were happy with it, then it gets commissioned for a full series. And it has to be fucking good. You get enough money to make the pilot, and that's all you get. They don't go through that vetting process with these Disney Plus shows. They go immediately to full series based on nothing more than a concept, a pitch. That's all you get.
Well,
that's why they're so shit. Like, because there's no vetting process.
Well, I just think that Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, they don't know how to do television. They just don't know how television works. And a couple things, I guarantee that they toyed with the idea of using the Netflix team to do Daredevil, but they wouldn't do it for the money. And one thing's Netflix, whatever you say about Netflix, they are very artist friendly. I would not say that Disney is artist friendly. They're not. And famously, Disney is also very cheap. When you look at, what was it? Tatiana Maslany was paid like so little. And then the actor who played Zorro in One Piece was paid, I believe, paid fair for that work. I mean, someone actually
He's a big star in Japan. That was why he got paid so much.
Yeah. But you know, Disney's famously cheap. I guarantee they looked at that option. And who can we get to work for us? Because Marvel and the Mouse have a bad reputation. So and that whole losing the process of going to pilot. I mean, famously, look at Game of Thrones. They made a pilot where they ended up recasting most of the show. And so HBO is a company that has been known that they're very good at doing television. Look at Succession, look at Game of Thrones, although don't look at the end of Game of Thrones, but look at the good parts. House of the Dragon, maybe look at that. But like there are processes that worked in television that you don't have access with streaming, right? Like one of them was audience feedback. It used to be that you'd be making a show, and in the midst of a show, you've got these episodes have aired, and you're hearing what the audience talks about on forums, right? And the producers of One Piece were also the same producers behind Cowboy Bebop. They said, like, we listened to the audience. We heard the complaints about Cowboy Bebop chose to do things differently. But in days of like shows like I don't know how you feel about Lost, but Lost, there were characters that came to prominence that were popular and got more screen time, and there are others that did not. And that was a show that, I mean, it ended up being a train wreck. And the ending is incredibly unsatisfying, but they had that feedback loop of fans where they're writing, producing the show, airing the show as it's being made, and can make adjustments in the future. And Joss Whedon came out of that system, right? That feedback loop of the audience. What you're losing, what you've lost with streaming is there is no feedback loop. You do, 8 episodes of Ahsoka, you put it out and hope people like it. You just hope people like it, and it's not working. That model isn't working.
It's interesting you say it as well, because there's ways to hedge your bets with the system they're using now, and that's the key jangling thing that we've seen, like rise to Hugh's prominence. It's like, if we pop a few Anakins in there, it'll make people say nice things, at least in the interim. And it's crazy because I've seen people talking about it already. It's like, where did Ahsoka go? And it's like, there's nothing to talk about. Of course Ahsoka's gone. There's nothing. Nothing happened. Nobody remembers anything. It's,
a great example of what you were saying, Chris, about feedback and writers pivoting and changing things, executives adjusting stuff, was Breaking Bad. Jesse was supposed to die, and he just stayed on. I mean, he outlived Walter White.
That's right. That's right. Even with Parks and Rec, Andy, the character played by Chris Pratt, was supposed to be just showing up for a couple of episodes, but he was just so lovable that they said, you know what, let's just write him into more. And and I completely, Chris, you pointing this out actually completely makes sense. I never thought about it from that perspective, that streaming completely takes away that feedback loop. And it's instead, they're relying on, they're first writing into what feels like a black hole for them. Because the people who are creating these things, writing these things, they're in their own circle of people, Hollywood-esque people that all think the same and talk the same. And so they're writing from that perspective versus actually trying to connect with audiences. And then they release it out using very cheap tricks like MauLer, what you're saying, just let's throw a little Anakin in there, let's throw some ghost forcing in there and all this stuff, and that'll get people buzzing, or even trying to create negative buzz. Let's use controversy as a way to create more interest in our shows rather than good storytelling.
I believe that honest, intelligent, authentic feedback to an artist, whether a writer, director, producer, whatever, that is like air. You need it to continue to exist and to better hone your craft, that feedback loop, and streaming destroys that completely. It just does, which is why most streaming shows are okay. They're just okay. They're meh. They're like, that was fine. Ahsoka just seemed like a complete waste of time. Nothing happened. Characters didn't grow. Lots of bad ideas have now been introduced to Star Wars, like space whales. I was watching It's a Gundam did a great video today. A little shout out to It's a Gundam, a video he dropped about Ahsoka. He talked, and I didn't realize this, Treasure Planet, which is an animated feature that maybe a lot of people forgot, had space whales. And also had
the ball map.
The ball map, like all these things that Dave Filoni ripped off. So
generally Farscape has space whales.
Yeah,
the Leviathans, right?
Dave Filoni is some masterful bullshit artist. Like, he's got people bought into him being this genius that's going to save Star Wars. Like,
he ruined it with that Ahsoka show. Was it? That was his chance, and he's ruined it now. Like, he's awful.
That was a man 100% going into business for himself just to get his characters on screen, and like, he is doing everything he can to make Ahsoka the core of everything that's happened in Star Wars. She will be the driving force behind everything going forward if he had his way.
She's the new Luke. But I mean, if you noticed, like, okay, I canceled my Disney Plus. I got a deal early on. It was like $4 a month. They since got done away with that deal, and it's like $150 a year. No thanks, I'm good. But they have a tab on it for those that do have Disney Plus. Please notice this. So they have a tab. You go to Ahsoka, and it's like episodes, trailer, information. They have a thing that says shop. You can actually tab over to a thing that says shop, and you can purchase exclusive items only available in the Disney Plus shop. Look at it next. Yeah, notice it.
Wow. Can't wait to not buy those things.
Right. Well, I mean,
you can buy the whale, a stuffed form of the
whale. Star Wars merch is all but cratered, anyways. I mean, nobody cares. I got a dozen roses for you. So,
God, yeah. Apparently, they'll pay you to take them off the shelves.
Exactly.
But yeah, with something like Daredevil, though, it just makes me think, like, okay, is this the beginning of a turnaround for them where they could say, right, we recognize the problem. We recognize that what we are producing now is of such poor quality that we can't even put it out in good conscience. We have to turn this around. We have to do better, for lack of a better term. Could this be something like that? Could they be course correcting, or is it just opportunism? Taking advantage of strikes and stuff to cancel a shitty project that they knew was going to fail anyway.
Oh, I think 100% they know that they're in trouble. I think that there's supposed to be 18 episodes of this Daredevil series, which is insane. And he doesn't even get into the costume until the 4th episode of the show, as it was written in this version that they canceled. And they were doing it like a straight legal procedural where Foggy is killed off camera.
Oh my
and
God.
Daredevil is sad, so he decides to not be Daredevil. Just little old Matt Murdock trying cases. So that was the premise, apparently, of the killed version of this. But I think at this point they definitely know Phase 4 didn't work. You can't. And going into Phase 5, it's diminishing returns. If you look at the box office, you can map the box office and you see it you see it on the decline. But the bigger movies for Marvel, anyways, were the Avengers films. It was all the team up, right? If you look at the highest box office are the Avengers movies when you look at the first 3 phases of Marvel. So clearly they realize they've got to pivot hard and wrap it up. They've got to wrap up these characters, wrap up the universe. They've got to fulfill all these contracts or get out of contracts that they don't want to fulfill. And they also need to see what happens with this Jonathan Majors case. Because will he be playing Kang in Kang Dynasty if that even happens? Right. So I also think that Disney is not as liquid a company as it used to be. The last year, was it Valiant Renegade who said they've lost $1 billion?
Yeah, probably more than that now. To be fair.
Yeah. So they've lost $1 billion. They've got this movie Wish coming out. Wish, return to form for Disney. We'll see. But yeah, I think because they're not as liquid as they used to be, there are going to be tough decisions. And I think part of that is you looking with like delaying Daredevil, taking things like Ironheart now has been delayed. Yeah. Ironheart, remember?
Oh no! Oh,
delayed. Riri Williams, not Riri Williams.
we were all so excited about that.
It's delayed until 2025, and then you've got Echo, which they're going to drop, which they've never done before. The binge model, right? They're dropping all the episodes at once just to
get it done.
Oh, get rid of it. Sure
just like so one weekend of headlines, and then it'll disappear into
when they have no faith in a project. Just like, good God, I wonder what that looks like.
Agatha's had about 10 names now, for God's sake. What is up with that?
Oh no, that's a marketing ploy apparently, because it's like Agatha Harkness herself, like pulling strings from behind the scenes, which is bullshit. It's just making it up as we go.
Once they release an Avengers movie and it underperforms dramatically, that's when they're going to have the big meetings of just heads have got to start rolling. This is it.
Well, there's no Avengers left that anyone cares about. Like, all that's left is Thor, and he's been thoroughly humiliated and destroyed.
The thing,
I don't think Chris Hemsworth wants to do it anymore either.
No. I completely agree. It's just the Avengers IP. I wonder what's left in terms of drawing in, because we all know it's going to be written like shit anyway. The fact that Waldron would have been one of the people, along with Loveness, at some point that were writing the scripts for these, just like you clearly have no idea what you're doing if you're going to put them on it. It's like it's over. But what I'm saying is like the next Avengers movie. It's been a long time. You know, will audiences be like? Because some audiences out there will be like, the Marvels. What even is that? Is that even in the MCU? I don't even know. It's like, but Avengers, that's very recognizable. There might even be people go into that might be like, I might see Iron Man again. Woohoo! Just some like baseline level of investment that they can really test. But like, I don't think anyone here would believe it would crack $1 billion, right?
No way. The original plan had apparently been that it was going to be Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, and Black Panther. They were going to be the 3 that was going to be the core of the new Avengers, and they were going to be the face of the MCU going forward.
3 characters who hadn't even met.
Yep, but also 3 characters that like are unworkable now. Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman's tragically passed away. Spider-Man, he's like now he's owned by Sony ultimately. Like,
his parents are fighting for custody, basically.
Yeah, constant legal disputes. They can't really like utilize that character properly. And Captain Marvel, who no one likes. And so, draw your own conclusions. Like, that's why
disaster, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, talk about backing the wrong horse. They couldn't have got it more wrong with these 3.
But yeah, I think with scrapping this Daredevil thing, I agree that what Chris is saying, that, they know that they're in trouble. But to me, what it feels like, because before I started YouTube stuff, I used to be in the corporate world for a long time. And you can always see the suits sort of trying to protect their jobs by just moving pieces around on a chessboard that's on fire. Let's just make it seem like you're on the right side, right? You're saying all the right things. Like Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, how many times have we wondered, is this the project where she finally loses her job? And
I'm reliably informed she's going to be like fired next weekend.
I thought she was fired today.
I mean, what is it going to take? But the thing is, she you know, she's going to hang on far longer than any talented person has been able to hang on to their job at that company, right? Because it's always the talented people that go first. Anybody who's committed to their work, they go first because they don't want to deal with the politicking types. And so once the culture of a company is infiltrated and corrupted and poisoned by those types of people that only care about how it looks and how it sounds and saying the right things, and there's like aiming to just get that next promotion, it's like all everybody else just kind of slips away, and it's only those people fighting over a carcass. And that's what it kind of feels like here, is that it's just going to be whoever is going to try to keep their job and keep their high level titles, and they're going to pretend like they're trying to create a fix. But at the end of the day, where's the talent? Where are the people who are going to create anything good? Where's room for them to hire someone that's going to come in and fix these problems that they have? It's not going to work. They're going to continue to put out subpar projects.
Well, I miss companies and I miss studios and stuff that were grown from the grassroots. You know, like when you think about Star Wars, like, well, okay, like it was George Lucas who came up with the idea and like got it commissioned, got the funding, got it made. It was like fighting against all kinds of problems along the way, but it was like a guy who had this like artistic vision. The people that have ultimately inherited what he built, though, are corporate shill hacks with no artistic bone in their bodies. But those are the people that are now in charge of these insane franchises that were like the works of far greater people from previous generations.
I mean, Kathleen Kennedy is the definition of failing up, if I ever did see it seriously. I swear at one point, you know, she must have been George Lucas's tea girl, you know, getting the coffee and the teas for everyone in the office at one point. And, you know, sure, she's been a producer on plenty of stuff, but that producer credit was essentially a name only, because you look at her now being actually in charge of it, and it goes to show, quite frankly, that there's not a creative bone in her body remotely. And the thing about Daredevil as well, like Daredevil being born again, it's not a sign that it's going to get better. I mean, yeah, do they know that they're in trouble? Yeah, absolutely. Do they? Yeah, of course they do, because they're getting the money back. And notice how most productions are now always going to the UK, because they can take advantage of that tax credit that comes back to them. They're moving out of the States for that money because it mitigates. Sometimes they earn more on the tax credit than they do in profit on a movie. And that's hilarious when you break it down like that. But, you know, speaking of everyone in charge at these things and the executives, like you said, sounds weird calling you baggage claim, but baggage claim, is that it's these executives moving stuff around a board. You know, like once that rot is gone, the core structure, then it'll improve. When it's still there, and you've still got people like Kevin Feige, Nate Moore, you know, all these kind of people that are there, no, it's never going to change, ever.
I just want to say a couple quick things. Baggage claim, you were just like spot on about corporations. I mean, part of the history of just the successes throughout the, you know, history of movies is creative executives who they don't need to even be creative, but they need to understand the creative mind. Corporations do not. Corporations kill creativity, in my opinion, in particular environments like Disney, right? And when you look at the original Star Wars and George Lucas, there's never going to be a George Lucas again, because no corporation is going to give an artist that much power and give an artist that many rights. It was Alan Ladd Jr., affectionately known as Laddie, who is the one who just believed in George Lucas, said, you know, I've seen this American Graffiti thing. I didn't know what you were doing with THX 1138, which actually in retrospect really holds up now, is very telling about our dystopian present. But there's a really good documentary about Alan Ladd Jr. that's on YouTube for free, a feature-length doc made by his daughter called Laddie, that will give you some perspective into what executives in Hollywood used to be like. There were actual executives who understood and trusted creatives. I don't think that exists at Disney. I think Marvel, you know, and Kevin Feige was fortunate to work with some very creative people and give them the space to be weird and creative. And that doesn't exist in current Disney. The best people have left. Joss Whedon, the Russo brothers, James Gunn, Favreau, who knows how much he's involved in Marvel anymore. I'm assuming almost nothing, but they're gone. They're gone, and there's no one left. And I believe MauLer, based on something you said earlier, you'll know it's over when they bring back and recast Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, which I think is imminent. I do think whether they turn up in Secret Wars or something else, some multiverse thing, because all this multiverse nonsense, if you recall, before Multiverse of Madness came out, there was all this speculation Tom Cruise is going to be Tony Stark because he was originally supposed to be cast as Tony Stark in an earlier version, and there were all these sort of fantasy fan castings of that, and it was such a colossal disappointment. We got pizza balls and Bruce Campbell, although I love Bruce Campbell.
Love Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love Bruce Campbell? But pizza balls from
but
another.
They could have treated him a little more nicely.
Well, to go a bit down memory lane, do you guys remember all the speculation over Quicksilver from Fox moving over?
Yes.
Everyone's like, "Oh my god, is this happening? Is this happening?" It was a boner joke. That's all it was.
That's all it was. Yeah. Even like the brief dream that we had that through Ahsoka that they would completely kill the whole Jake Skywalker thing and redo it. Oh man, for those that 1 month we were so excited that we could have Star Wars back, but none of it is panning out.
No. Well, I mean, there's too much invested in what they've produced already. And so they'll never admit they were wrong, but they'll never backtrack to that extent. It's too much to hope for. And so all these franchises, I don't know, man, it's easier to just let go of them rather than hold on to the hope that they're going to improve, because it just feels like they can't at this point.
I think, well, you know what I get the impression of is back in the day, because I've been watching this specifically, Chris, have you heard of a Netflix show called The Movies That Made Us?
Yes. Fantastic.
I've been checking it out. It's really awesome. I'm surprised I haven't heard about it before. I caught it by chance because it was literally a minimalistic poster of Alien. I was like, oh, that looks cool. Then it was like, yeah, it's just a series of documentaries, basically 45 to 50 minutes, and it just goes over the creation of classic films. The more you go through them, the more you discover, as Chris was talking about, a lot of these executive producers, whatever, they understand they have to have the artists. The artists are basically the way to get money. And I think that we moved on to the point where Kevin and others have desperately over the decades tried to find a way to not need the artists. It's like, if we could just get rid of them.
It's the corporatization, isn't it? It's the idea of right, we're going to distill down the bare essence of what makes a successful movie, and we will turn it into a formula. It's not just going to be that we'll approach each new project as a new artistic endeavor and try and do the best job we can. It's we're going to take this successful formula and we'll apply it to as many movies as we can to make the most amount of money as possible. We'll just keep churning them out until eventually people get sick of them, and then we'll be forced to move on to the next formula. That's essentially what we're dealing with now. And so you can see why that they don't engage with artists anymore, because why would they need to? You've got the successful formula already. That's where Marvel went. They had the things that made Marvel movies successful, and then they would bring in guest directors to do their perfunctory job on the most basic of scenes. The CGI people would do the rest. And then the formula would be applied to the script to produce whatever it is that they had to shoot.
Well,
that's it. And that's how they make the money.
They practically cast directors because the director's individual talent and voice just doesn't come through in all these projects. Being it might be Sam Raimi behind the next Avengers film. I just hesitate to be like, what would that even mean?
Multiverse of Madness was the saddest thing, because it's like you saw the tiniest little flash of Sam Raimi-ness just once every 30, 40 minutes. And that's it. It was just it's the definition of seeing an artist getting squashed by a studio. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Why hire them if you're not going to make them? If you're not going to make use of these people, why even bother hiring them?
Right.
Like I said, I think that they want to make this stuff in spite of artists. They're like, God, you fuckers, we have to use you guys to make movies.
Yep.
And I mean, they kind of want to make it, besides the audience too. They're like, God damn it, we got to please this goddamn audience.
Disdain for the artist and disdain for the for the artists and the audience. And that's the thing, that's what made the 1970s probably the greatest era of American filmmaking. Is Hollywood was an artist friendly environment. And what I mean by the fact that there won't be another George Lucas, what I meant by that is not that there won't be someone as wildly creative and innovative as George Lucas. I believe that is possible. No one will get the deal that Lucas got, where he got to hold on to the merchandising rights and the sequel rights, because he effectively forfeited a little chunk of his director's fee just so he could make the movie he wanted to make, begging to please let me do some second unit photography for the cantina scene because I don't like it. When you look at a book that I would recommend if you really want insight into how much of a struggle it was just to get that first Star Wars movie off the ground, a book called The Secret History of Star Wars. In particular, I recommend the audio version, which is like a riveting audio documentary going through all the early drafts of Star Wars, which were a freaking mess. But you see how it got to the place of what it is. It's a miracle that the film turned out as well as it did, and came out at the time that it did, which was the 70s, having been there when the movie premiered. I was a little kid, but the 70s sucked. It was a terrible time in American history, post-Nixon, post-Vietnam, and movies were dark, right? Movies were dark. I cannot wait until the film Twitter that's going to praise Killers of the Flower Moon, which deserves it, resurfaces a scene of Martin Scorsese from Taxi Driver. Oh, when they discover that scene, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Martin Scorsese has a cameo in Taxi Driver that is going to ruffle some feathers if anyone ever bothers to see those films.
It's similar to Tarantino's cameo in Pulp Fiction.
Absolutely. So good. But that was this magical era where it was a truly American identity in filmmaking. And now all these studio films are very corporate. They're not artist friendly, and they're not made for America. They're made for a global audience, which also is just more and more just sort of carving off layers of something that is just has a singular artistic vision. We're just not going to get that. And Favreau, he should be given a lot of credit. There would be no Marvel Cinematic Universe if not for that first Iron Man movie. Iron Man, a B character in the Marvel Universe, no disrespect, but was, and just kicked the whole thing off. But I really think when they bring back Captain America and Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, that's when you know that'll be desperation time. And that is, I'm guessing that's on the baggage claim. Will know this term. It's on the product roadmap. It's a very corporate BS term, right?
Yeah, very well done. You're giving me flashbacks of my past life.
We're gonna pivot. We're gonna. Oh my god, disruption.
Let's double click on that. Yeah.
Oh my
it's interesting you should say as well that they're made for a global audience. A lot of these films, it doesn't even feel like they're made for that. It feels like they're made for a Hollywood audience, a Southern Californian audience. Like it's so. Like the sensibilities, the politics, the worldview, the issues they want to describe, it's so unique to that Hollywood bubble that it's almost laughable at this point.
Yeah.
It's like they can't understand why normal people don't connect with films like this, like these big studio movies. It's like it never enters into their head that maybe normal people are wrestling with different issues and they see the world in a different way than they do. It's crazy, I know, but like,
that's why Rachel Ziegler's comments about, she's not Snow White's not aiming for love. It just she probably assumed that was going to land so well, that it was going to get her so much praise from the modern audience, that she that's kind of the world she's being raised in, that those are the kind of buzzwords to use: diversity, representation, that's what matters. And she just spouts those things, and she has it written down somewhere and just selects one for whatever is appropriate for that moment. But and she must have gotten the shock of her life, and she saw that people don't agree with you.
It's funny you should mention that, actually, because we're all excited about Disney's live action remake of Snow White that's going to come out next year. we can't wait. I mean, because like it
yeah.
really seems like a quality product. It's going to be so respectful to the source material. But it turns out that Disney are not the only people who are making a Snow White movie next year. The Daily Wire have decided to pitch in with their own one, and they've just dropped a teaser for it. And I'm gonna let you guys take a quick look at it. I'm sure you've seen it already, but I'll let the audience judge it a little bit. And apologies. Hopefully the audio doesn't get me demonetized, but we'll play it anyway and see what happens. So apparently Bentkey is their children's productions company.
In time a prince would come. Once upon a time, but now that time is gone.
It's so funny because like they knew exactly what they were doing with this little teaser here. It's like a direct fuck you to Disney. It's hilarious how they've done it.
We're in a weird timeline, aren't we?
Yeah, we really are. Yeah. I have no idea what's going to become of this film, but I think it's just funny that something like this is allowed to exist, and it's probably going to go head to head with Disney next year. Yeah.
I mean, let's go. I'm for it. It's about time we had some more competition in this space. I mean, what we were just talking about, these massive corporate structures have formed, right? Something needs to disrupt it. Sorry, I'm doing more startup speak.
I think, but I think what's interesting is like, well, I'll give you a quote actually from Brett Cooper, which honestly till like a week ago I thought that was a dude, but like whatever.
I thought it was too.
It's like, how do you get called Brett Cooper and be a woman? I don't get it.
Everyone who follows her, she's just, she's a commentator, right? And everybody, they call her mother. they simp hard for her.
I mean, yeah. So she's going to be playing beautiful. Snow White in the Daily Wire's Snow White and the Evil Queen. But she had this to say about the character. She said, "I was raised on the original Brothers Grimm fairy tales, so I'm thrilled that we're bringing this iconic story to life for the next generation. Snow White is such a beautiful character, and I'm honored to be playing her. Like all the best fairy tales, this is a story with timeless values like love, friendship, and kindness, and I can't wait to share them." Just take a moment to consider that and compare that to what Rachel Zegler had to say. Snow White is getting chased by her stalker. Weird. It's not 1937 anymore, okay? She's all about power and being independent and smart and powerful. Power.
Insufferable.
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting the way they've approached this. It's like they've taken whatever Disney have made so far and they've done the exact opposite. And weirdly, it feels so much more appropriate for the Snow White character and the Snow White fairy tale than what Disney are going to produce. And it's probably done on a tiny fraction of the budget. It's weird.
Sorry, just real quick. I just wonder, it's Snow White and the Evil Queen. I wonder if the Evil Queen will be a drag queen. I think that would be more, if they made, I mean, like Ursula and Little Mermaid is inspired many drag queen designs, but
it's gonna be
I
Lizzo.
love this. What's that?
It's gonna be Lizzo.
Yeah, it'll be Lizzo.
Do it, you cowards.
Anyway,
It'll just be it'll be a slightly unattractive middle-aged woman. Like that's what it'll be. It's like she's just jealous. Like, I want to be young again. Damn it.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to do anywhere. Like everyone's acting like this is the second coming of Christ. This is going to be behind a paywall. It's not going to have any cultural impact. Like props to the Daily Wire for doing it, but it's only going to be in the vicinity of their bubble. And everyone acting like this is the second coming. This is the rising tide of the culture war. We're battling it out. No, we're not. That is not. That's going to be behind a paywall. You've used the host, who, yes, was an actor. but it comes across like satire as well. Because when she turns around, you're like, oh, that's a YouTuber. Yeah, I know she was an actor, but she is a YouTuber now, and it'll be behind a paywall. It won't go up. Disney don't care about this. This won't do anything. And it's a shame that people are hyping it. It's funny, don't get me wrong, like it's hilarious. And I love it because it's a meme. But people acting like this is going to make any difference? Nah, it's not. At all. And I hate to be it. I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but it's not going to do anything. It'll be behind a paywall. You know, it's not big. They've even used one of their hosts. So it's their bubble within their bubble within their bubble. It doesn't appeal to anyone outside of the Daily
Does anyone buy that they're motivated by autistic integrity for this? It's like, no, you're doing it to stick it to Disney, I guess, and try to soak up like the anger in response to Disney.
I think that would be the thing that would be the only thing that would sustain it. It genuinely looks like an old G4 skit.
It does.
You know, they would have had Olivia Munn or something doing this. Like, but I think there's although this particular film is unlikely to make much of an impact, I think it taps into that audience that does want stuff like this. They want it done probably on a bigger scale than this, but they want to see classic stories like this told with respect, I guess. And they want to just have escapist entertainment, you know, not having like modern shit preached at them, not being lectured about stuff. Just I want to lose myself in a story of adventure and heroism and all that sort of thing. So it taps into that. I just don't think, like you say, it's not going to be enough by itself to do anything really. But the fact that it's getting made, it's a ballsy move, and I've got to respect them for doing it. I kind of hope that it does well, just on that basis, but probably won't.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Mr. H, that it's not going to be this massive hit or anything like that. But I'm glad that there are more people thinking about doing independent projects because audiences are really starved, and the reach that these massive companies have had for so long, they've had such a hold over the market that's obviously eroded. And I'm glad that rather than just criticizing things, because I get frustrated myself for this, is that my entire channel is about criticizing things. And I wish that I was part of a solution where I was actually adding to something like positive to the culture versus just talking about everything that's wrong with it. And that's my own personal crisis that hopefully I figure something out on that front. But I'm glad that they're doing this, because there's this other guy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. His name is Jonathan Pajot. He's a
Why have you got
sculptor.
balloons going on?
I have no idea what is going on.
I thought you were celebrating. But
sorry, didn't want to interrupt you.
There's this guy, Jonathan Pajot. He's a sculptor. He's been part of Daily Wire. The Daily Wire had published these. Still going.
What's going on with your screen?
Trying really hard to focus on my thoughts.
What is going on?
Maybe okay, sorry. So Jonathan Pajot was part of the Exodus lecture that Jordan Peterson had done, and he's you could call him a philosopher. He's a thinker, and so what he himself analyzes a lot of these fairy tales, and he's seeing these modern representations of these fairy tales, and instead of just focusing on criticizing them, he made the decision to launch newer versions of them. So he's redoing Snow White with this beautiful art. He had this whole Kickstarter that he did, and it just looks gorgeous. And what he's doing is he's bringing back the essence of the story, but modernizing it, that it is more accessible today, right? Because people have this perspective on these old stories like, oh, they're irrelevant, right? They're written in the 1800s, who cares, right? But they have elements to them that apply. They're universal to the human experience. So I love that instead of just criticizing it, he's actually creating something. And I think I like seeing these little nuggets of people, even Drinker, what you're doing with your books, with your movie. Like, I like these nuggets of people standing up to the Goliath of the industry and starting to change and I think enough of them will change the tide.
I think perhaps, yeah, like, someone like a company like the Daily Wire, someone as small as me, like by ourselves aren't going to do anything, but like that cumulative effect of enough people showing that it can be done and encouraging other people to do it, maybe it will begin to have an impact. And there's a lot to be said for projects that are done with just an artistic goal in mind, not necessarily about making money, not necessarily about pushing the message or anything like that, but just I've got a story that I want to tell and I want to do it the best way that I can with whatever resources I've got at my disposal. That's the essence of what storytelling is, and that's where some of the best stuff ever made has come from. And yeah, well, I hope that we see more of that. Like I said, this Snow White rival that the Daily Wire are going to produce, it could end up being just a complete joke and it could be a disaster, or it might just make no impact whatsoever. But it's generated headlines for now, and it shows that other people are willing to do stuff like this. It doesn't have to all be in the hands of companies like Disney. It doesn't have to all be in the hands of Hollywood. It can be done by other people, and maybe eventually we'll get to that point where there is a genuine rival there, and it gives an audience what they want. Like, I've always gone by the basis that if you're a business and you steadfastly refuse to give your customers what they want, eventually someone else is going to come along and do it. They're going to do it for you.
Yep.
That's how businesses operate.
I mean, I've come from the world of indie film, and I've made small indie movies, and I just think independent creators are the future. And the tools, this is why I'm so excited about AI, because Hollywood is going to put all these rules on AI in terms of how it can be used and not used and whatnot to preserve these unions. And I do believe that the writers and artists need to be compensated fairly, but the possibilities with AI in the hands of some low budget indie filmmakers are mind boggling. Whatever you thought about the creator, Mr. H has a balloon fetish, apparently.
I'm literally not doing anything.
Really?
I'm not doing anything. I don't understand.
Well, someone's playing a joke on you. You've been hacked.
Is there a keyword that's triggering this or something?
It's weird. It's only you.
Maybe a hand movement or
green
something.
screen, but I don't get it.
When you look at whatever you think about the creator, which I thought a lot of problems with the story, and particularly the third act, but from a special effects standpoint, it was incredibly clever. It looked astounding and better than films with budgets 3 or 4 times that. So have you seen this thing that is the AI where someone I think the name of the series is What If the Star Wars Sequels Were Awesome? And an artist did artwork representing scenes from the Star Wars sequels. In addition, had a Mark Hamill's voice used to narrate a story of The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, but a completely different version of it. Have you seen it yet? I'll find it.
No.
It's worth taking a look at from the standpoint of this was mostly created with AI, but the story is infinitely better because it's actually a story of Han, Luke, and Leia, along with Lando, among others, and taking it far into the future. And it's a more logical connection. I think Star Wars Theory did reaction videos watching it. The videos are like almost 30 minutes each, and it goes through basically an alternate story of what the sequels could have been. And this is just someone on YouTube having fun experimenting with AI. I really have a lot of hope for the future for what is possible as costs. I mean, I just made a documentary, released it on Blu-ray. There's just inexpensive ways to make films, shows, and release them. I really believe, as Gary Beekler from Nerdrotic points out, we're in the Iron Age. We're right at the beginning of this happening. The tools are filtering into independent creators' hands. And if you know anything about how Hollywood works, I know somewhat. A lot of films that you see are actually made by independent production companies with financing from many different bizarre sources to suddenly have a movie released by Paramount, right? A lot of these are still independently motivated in the sense that it's putting together the project and the financing, and it really is more to do with the financing than anything else. But I think that those numbers are going to start to lower and lower and lower as these tools become available. I'm not as fearful of AI as a lot are. I still think AI, in my opinion, it's another tool like Photoshop. Photoshop needs to be in the hands of an artist that knows how to use Photoshop. Okay, I don't know. I know basics of Photoshop. Okay, that's it. But AI in the hands of a true artist, you saw that. I'm sure you all saw that the 100-year anniversary of Star Wars, where they did the Star Wars from 1923.
Yeah,
very clever, very clever. Yeah, a little cheesy, but we're just at the very beginnings of this. And while Hollywood will regulate it, there are no regulations for independent creators. So this Jonathan Pajot project, which I found the Kickstarter for it, I think the Kickstarter is over, but you can still pre-order the book. It looks amazing. It looks really incredible. I put in the private chat.
Yeah, I've got it here. I'll put it into the main chat.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'll find this video to this Star Wars. What if the Star Wars here? I'll just put this video in here. You can maybe check it out later. It's interesting to see what is possible.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. And like when I obviously I watch EFAP. EFAP on Saturdays is very relaxing and stressful at the same time.
Good release.
I love it. But my God, like MauLer, your insights into so many things is just, I mean, if there was any justice, you'd be consulting for the studios on story. You know what I mean? I don't know why you're not.
I feel like everyone here has a better handle on where they should.
Well, that's true. Drinker, Mr. H.
Don't include me in that. I don't know what I'm doing.
Dude, it's barely a compliment in terms of like they're so like us doing better than them because they've done one of the worst. It just like the whole. I think it was like a week before the announcement. I said a drinker on open bars like the worst thing they could do is announce a Ray movie. Worst fucking decision. Yeah, and it's just like why. Like why do you keep it? Like because there's like a billion choices they could make and they end up going with some of the worst ones every time.
It was like that whole Father Ted skit where it's like that's the best we could come up with, another mass. It's like another Ray movie. I was going to say actually
reason why I'm not massively enamored with this. The Daily Wire thing as a joke is great. It's just another remake of Snow White though. This is the same thing that we keep bitching about Hollywood for, constant remakes. Why do we outside of a joke and going up against Disney in terms of like for like, no one else should get the same pass either. You shouldn't give someone a pass whilst you're also, banding around Hollywood's out of ideas. Daily Wire could have made something new, but they didn't. It's the same thing. It's these boring remakes, rehashes of the same thing we've seen a dozen times. And that's another reason why I don't want to give it a massive pass. Or just because they're Daily Wire. I don't subscribe to that belief. I think you should, have that sort of common ground amongst all, the criticism of every studio applies here. If you're going to slate Disney for constant remakes, which absolutely, I'm sick of bloody remakes and rehashes all the goddamn time. But it should be the same thing with Daily Wire. The thing about Daily Wire is it's going to arguably be worse in some ways because it's going to have a tiny budget. It will, like the cinematography in that clip, again, if it's not satire, was bad.
Well, it just seemed like a lot of stock images or stock footage,
Right.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, in terms of horrible remakes of just the same story over and over again, we're all aware that Robyn Hood got released in Canada.
Perfect segue there.
Yeah, it's a faithful retelling of that beautiful English legend about Robin Hood, Robin from unfair taxes and given to the poor. But we've got a new and fresh take on it, and well, we all gave our thoughts on it, or a lot of the YouTube commentary people did, and Director X wasn't too pleased by that. And he's made his thoughts known, and you were lucky enough to interview him Mr. H, for 2 entire hours. How was that? And how did it happen?
Well, so look, so I've not even seen the show because look, you know, kudos to you, Drinker, my dude, for being able to watch it, because I categorically thought it would just give me cancer. Quite frankly,
I probably do have cancer at this point. But I mean, I barely got through one episode, so that's the best I could manage.
So I had no intention to watch it at all. I looked at the tease and I was like, this is utter dog shit. How did this get made? And then everyone else saw the trailer. Everyone else started commenting on it. And he started going mental on Twitter, didn't he? Going on TikTok, on Instagram, going absolutely insane. And I left it for a little while because I was like, look, I've got no intention of watching it. I watched the trailer. This is very clearly not for me. This is garbage. I'm just going to leave it alone. Funny whilst it lasted, but I'm just going to leave it alone. And then I got tagged in something on Twitter where he was like, none of you are going to have me on your show because you're afraid I'll call you racist. And I was like, mate, you culturally appropriated an English folklore and had all the villains white and the heroes black, and I'm afraid you're going to call me a racist. I'm like, that is an epic bruh moment. And anyway, basically, Midnight's Edge convinced me to do it because I didn't really want to do it because those things can quickly devolve into absolute nonsense. And I was like, I cannot be bothered. But anyway, I was like, look, sure, whatever. I'll have a conversation with you. So I just tweeted him and literally said that, I think. To which he followed me. And then it was like, DM me. I was like, my DMs are open. You could have just DM'd me. I'm like, for goodness sake. So anyway, I followed him, arranged a time. And I said, look, I was like, you know, I literally, it's in my DMs. I was like, oh, we'd only need about 15 minutes. Because I was like, I'm not going to need very long to talk about this because I've not even watched the show. And he was like, no, we're going to need longer than that. We need to talk about the culture. I'm like, oh, God. Oh. I'm like, really? Oh, fine. Okay, whatever. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. Spoke to him for 2 hours. And, you know, like, I'll give him his due. Like, he came on. And there are some things he said which, after the fact, because I didn't know them, like I didn't know what an Archie bunker was. I didn't know what that was. And after the fact, now apparently he was calling me a racist, which is not, you know, I'm not okay about. But I confronted him on a lot of stuff, and he basically backtracked on a lot of stuff, threw executives under the bus, said the trailer wasn't cut by him. He didn't like the trailer. His original idea was something different. Everything. Couldn't grasp simple logic. How? Because he's so convinced that it had been review bombed. And I don't know if anyone's watched that part of the. It's not really an interview or a debate. It's a conversation, basically. It's kind of somewhere between the two of those things. And I broke it down in the most easiest way. I was like, no one knew about this show. The only reason anyone knew about this show was because this side of YouTube found it, and we spoke about it. And there's like, you know, with your video on it, Drinker, and everyone else's, it's 1 million+ views of people watching this stuff that would never have been introduced to the show. So I'm like, look, if you take that number, 1 million, let's just say 1 million, and 1% of that million, 10,000 people go and watch the show. Even if 50% of that 1% go and review it, and it's their honest opinion, they're not going to like it, are they? Let's be honest. And he just couldn't grasp it. He just couldn't. And he was like, yeah, but it's so, I'm like, yeah, but it's so slanted. I'm like, yes, I know. I've factored that in. I've factored that into this. And it just kept getting, yeah, it was a long old bloody conversation. But I'd like to think a roundabout way he you know, came to the conclusion. Because the thing about these conversations are like, because people said to me, you should have gone harder. No, because you're never going to have a conversation then. Like it'd be over like that. There's no point.
Yeah,
you're never going to change these people's minds ever.
I think it's a real art to be able to give the person just enough rope to like hang themselves. And to just, steer them in the direction that you want them to go, and then let them talk, and then they can put their own view across. And 9 times out of 10, it'll just be absolute bullshit, and they've done your work for you. But like you say, you can't just go in at them saying, like, you produced a bullshit show and you're just going to blame racism for all your shit failings. It's not going to work, because he's just going to leave the conversation immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's not
instead,
really going to achieve anything. And
I mean, I even said to him, I'm like, look, you're being flamed on Twitter today, because it was the same day that the clip on Twitter was going around where he's on the Real Toronto News saying everyone looks goofy next to a guy with a disco ball for a face.
That was so weird.
The editing on that was absolute genius, because literally the moment he said that, the camera cuts to the guy with the disco ball for a face. There. And he's not even speaking. It just cuts to him.
But it's so weird that it cuts to him for an expression that we can't even see. And then he's like, I know I wear a disco ball, but yeah, other people are being goofy.
And I just said, do you not have any self-awareness? I'm like, you honestly can't sit there and say that with a straight face. I mean, that absolutely looked insane.
He
and your name is Director X on top of it. It's just so pretentious.
I think, honestly, he thinks he's made some absolute piece of artistic gold there. But, like, he could have gained so much popularity and so much respect if he'd just come on and taken the L and just been like, yeah, you know what, it wasn't great, but we had some fun making it. Maybe you're not meant to take it too seriously. It's just a bit of like a fun, our attempt to put a spin on this legend or whatever.
Well, I even said about the condom jar thing. I was like, mate, you put condoms in a cookie jar. I'm like, do you not see? And I phrased it in a way which I thought, would get him to agree, I guess, in a way, was do you not see how that could be perceived as comical? Not, you wrote it clearly as a joke. Do you not see how that could be perceived as comical? No, that's dead serious. I'm like, fuck's sake, really? And then he followed it up and he was like, well, I followed it up with a line, not to get any diseases. And I'm like, and apparently the purpose of including the line was because diseases are not spoken about very much. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, let's apply that logic to the whole show then. So I'm like, I don't know anything because I've not watched the show. Obviously, I'm never going to. It's garbage. I'm going to ask you some questions and I'm going to sort of see if this logic applies across the show. I'm like, does she have a father? Yes. I'm like, oh, okay, wow. I'm genuinely surprised here. Are they together? No. I'm like, okay, so it's more important to you to include a cookie jar full of condoms and a line about venereal diseases and stuff like this, as opposed to having a 2-parent household. I'm like, what strong message are you actually trying to put out here? Like, that's more important. So it's fine, bang around, no worries. That sort of the logic of what you're trying to instill in the viewer doesn't apply across the board. I'm like, it's a farce. It's an absolute farce. And I try to have a conversation with them about how very clearly, a better message would be a 2-parent household. Massively evidence shows it, etc., etc. And if you're going to want to include any form of message, surely it would be that, it would be that. And he's like, well, no, we need some realism in this. We need to have some kind of realism and stuff. I'm like,
I can't imagine too many mothers who would say like, right, there's the condom jar, fill your boots, girl, go and fuck everything that you lay eyes on. Like, they would probably be like, I'm a bit worried that you're going out and partying with every guy that you meet. You're probably going to get a reputation if you keep doing that kind of thing. I don't think you should keep doing that. That would be the conversation that they would actually have. But this is the weird, like you say, the weird logic that he's going down. It's interesting.
I mean, he did accept that all the villains as being white looks real bad. So I'll give him that. At the very least, he accepted it. But he gave.
I mean, was that his creative decision, though?
Well, but this is what I mean. Yeah.
Because I could sort of buy it if it was like I wanted to tell a completely different story, but the studio made me do it this way, and I just did the best I could.
That's apparently that is kind of what he said, though, because he said again, with these kind of conversations, you've got to enter into it into good faith. So you've got to accept what they're saying is true, right? No matter what you think of it on the back end of it.
Yeah.
So he said that his initial concept for the show was all men coming back from war and sort of doing vigilantism that way. And I'm like, it's not a bad idea. Apparently, it was everyone else that wanted to change it. But how do you get from that as an idea to Black Power Ranger, Robin Hood people? Like that's a big leap from one to the other.
Yeah.
So if that is true, that's some serious interference right the way up to the end product. It was quite something of a conversation.
It was interesting as well, like the teenage technology genius who's designing like jetpacks and stuff, like in her spare time, and she's not been trained by anyone. She just figures
Is that
this
part of the
stuff out.
show?
Yeah,
We haven't heard that story before.
God.
Yeah, that's the character called Much. Just Much. That's her name. Much.
MUCH. Much.
Yeah, Much. Yeah, Much Ado About Nothing. But yeah, I mean, it's like we've had Cassie from Quantum Mania. We've had whatever the fuck her name is from Wakanda Forever. Like
Riri.
We've had Riri as well. Shuri, Riri, and it's like, yeah. Do you not think this whole like girl teenage science engineering prodigy thing is getting a little old now? I get that you want to emphasize like girls can do technology stuff too, get them in STEM, but at a certain point it just becomes another trope that's been worn out. But again, I don't think you would even recognize that that's a problem. It's just like, yeah, we're doing good things here with this show.
You know what's so strange about this chap is outside of that world, he's huge. Like his music video stuff is massive. He's worked with Drake. He's worked with like the biggest artists in the world.
I assume he didn't have much input on the actual song that went into this show because, good Lord.
I have no idea. It's so bizarre. I mean, I don't know. It's so strange. But basically, it came down to the end of it. Confronted him on the racism thing. Apparently, he wasn't calling anyone a race.
I think you have. What? Yeah, it's like some gestures are doing it.
Yeah, it must be reading what you're doing.
Gestures. Yeah,
it's very strange.
Do this again. Do this again. See if it works again.
Weird.
No. Anyway,
we need Riri Williams to help us figure this out.
Oh my god! Yeah, only a teenage girl can figure this technology out for us.
I can't remember what I was saying now.
Well, I have a quick question. First of all, I haven't seen the show at all, but I've been entertained by many videos that I've seen. Ryan Kinnell's videos, your video, Drinker, among others. Mr. H watched the interview. But I have one question about the show. Is there any sort of moral center? Meaning in the Robin Hood tales that we've seen in the past, usually it's established that Robin Hood and the merry men, so to speak, are all in the right and justified in their stealing and giving back to the poor. Because I think the best message we could use now in today's society and where things are going is a message that you're justified in stealing stuff. We need more of that. But does Robin Hood have the moral high ground? Are the villains properly, how is it all portrayed?
It's a tough one to define because the evil white businessman guy wants to knock down this housing project so he can exploit the land, right? So the mother of the main character goes and stages a protest. Then he then uses the corrupt police to go and arrest her, and she gets shot in like a bit of a fracas. So she's shot and she gets paralyzed as a result. And they want to sue the police, but they can't because they don't have enough money. And so the solution is we're going to go and steal a bunch of his stuff to pay the legal costs. So that's essentially it. It's not like a high-minded ideal of like, I'm going to steal unjust money that's been taken from the people and give it back to them. It's like, I'm going to do it to satisfy the particular like personal vendetta that I've got.
That's quite bad, isn't it? I'm gonna steal money from the rich guy. I'm gonna steal stuff from the rich guy, sell it, so I can accumulate enough money to then sue the rich guy for more money.
Yeah. And so like I can only go on like the first episode, so I don't know where it ultimately leads, but I assume it's just more of that same stuff. And yeah, like every character from the Fable has got a parallel in the show, as daft as it is. So you've got Friar Tuck, who's now like a technology computer hacker guy. And you see him working away in his lockup, and like he doesn't even touch the keyboard. His fingers are hovering above the keyboard because it's got like magnetic imaging or something, and it's just, he speaks like he's Morpheus from the Matrix.
Painful.
I could go on for hours, but like it's all just it's like the clumsiest, shittest porting of all this stuff into the modern day, and it fits about as well as you would expect. It's like trying to fit a Zeppelin into a condom. It's just.
I'm very glad I didn't watch it now. Goodness. Holy crap! But yeah. So that, I mean, the conversation itself ended up with him essentially admitting that he. I mean, I posited that, you know, basically you got negative reviews and you got butthurt and you lashed out, and he essentially agreed with me that was the case. So it was productive on that level, I guess. In some regard. I mean,
that's good. I just feel like that's probably not going to carry forward from his point of view. No. He's not going to give interviews going forward saying like, oh yeah, I was just pissed off because people didn't like my shitty show. It would have worked so much better if he had just said, hey, you guys have got criticisms of this. I'd like to come on and have a chat with you, put forward my experience of making this show. Like, how much more of a cordial conversation might that have been?
Well, it would have been, yeah. Significantly better. Just banding around race. As I said to him, you can't call people racist. Like, it's just lost its meaning at this point. It's just...
It honestly has. It has.
Literally no meaning to it.
And did he acknowledge that that's a problem?
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. Again, I give him his dues on certain bits and pieces. Absolutely, I mean, the very fact that he came on and it remained calm deserves a certain. Well, it doesn't deserve it, but from me, gets a little bit of a respect from me that it remained as calm as it did, because I did. I pressed him on a certain amount of stuff. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, he did acknowledge the fact that racism is an overplayed out thing. He did say cultural appropriation. He doesn't believe in it. I don't know whether that's something, whether he was being completely truthful there, because I said, well, look, I looked at that show and I looked at that as cultural appropriation, which is the thing which is, big on now. I don't personally care about it generally. I'm like, but if it's a rule that's applied to other parties, I'm going to be able to, apply it to this and go, that is cultural appropriation. But he said he doesn't believe in that, and the whole sort of racist thing's been banded around too much and stuff. So I don't know. It was an exercise in, I don't know, futility in some regards, but 2 hours of my life I won't get back.
Well, I mean, respect to you for doing it, man, and respect for keeping a cool head while doing it and just letting the guy ramble, I suppose. People, I guess, can watch it and they can they can draw their own conclusions from it, and I think it's probably quite unequivocal. But yeah, people can find it on Mr. H's channel. Obviously the link to his channel's in the description, so please do go and take a look. But I was going to just finish it up by doing a few super chats before we wrap up the stream, if that's cool with you guys, because there's been a ton of them that have come in, so I'm sure everyone's got questions for all of you.
We will allow it.
We will permit this, yes. Zabad says, I just started a new job this week and I'm slowly picking up all the ins and outs, but nothing relieves the stress of job training quite like the 69th episode of my favorite YouTube podcast. Cheers, gents. Thank you. 69, bro. Good luck with the new job, mate. Blue Collar Loser says, as usual, I have to catch the replay for this. Seeing Flower Moon at 3 p.m. today. 3.5 hours. Love Chris and BC. Baggage claim, sorry. How does the panel feel about this movie? Oscar buzz. So, yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon. How do we feel about it? I'm seeing it tomorrow.
I've seen it, and it's fantastic. It's really, it's you forget like that this is possible, and I've appreciated Martin Scorsese's, criticisms of Marvel movies. He's spot on. These aren't movies. They're, IP, they're theme park rides. They have the potential to be great storytelling. But Killers of the Flower Moon is Scorsese in prime form. And Leonardo DiCaprio probably plays the most unlikable character he's ever played in his career. And that's saying something if you've seen Django Unchained. So,
yeah.
And there's also shocking violence right from the beginning. The 3.5 hours flies by. I'm surprised that I'm even saying that because I've been very critical of movies that have been, overly long. But yeah, 3.5 hours and it flies by. It's all due credit to Thelma Schoonmaker, the editor. But yeah, a drinker. I'm really interested in your take on it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Excellent. No, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, good news.
Nice to get good movies occasionally. Waylon Bacifus says the ultimate question: Spewart or Gene? I don't know. What the fuck's that?
What?
I thought that.
That could be a Gothic phone reference at this point. I don't know because it's Splot, but
I don't know what that's.
we'll just give it a thumbs up. Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Hey,
100%.
see if we can trigger some more balloons from Mr. H.
Yeah.
Blue Collar Loser also says Spider-Man 2 releases at midnight. Tell MauLer he needs to play part 1. Recently streamed it on YouTube. Story cutscenes are better than the movies.
Well, I mean, the hype for the second one has been through the roof. The internet's going nuts about it, so be interested to see what happens.
Nice.
But I got to stream like 5 other games for October, so I don't think I can fit Spider-Man in there. I'm so sorry.
Gator159 says sometimes I use the it'll be fine coffee mugs to make instant oatmeal from the Keurig. I have both Titanic and the Hindenburg. Superb.
Good.
It's great. I love to know what people make in these mugs. Mr. Lucas says MauLer, play Spooderman. There you go. Another recommendation.
They forced me to play Kong. They don't get to make a request for a few years. Okay.
Oh, come on. You love it, really.
No, I didn't.
No, you
It was
do.
horrible. At least Gollum had things happening every once in a while, but Kong was fucking empty. It's glitches and nothing. That's all you get. So, to be fair, I fell into the map a few times, so that was fun.
That's always good. Elsie Le Pen says the Sniper Wolf situation is a terrifying chapter in the React Wars era. Wishing the best for Jack, but also highlights YouTube needs to do better. Bit of a weird double standard that they've got going on there. She's obviously a big earner for them, so she gets special treatment. Waylon Bacifus, question for the whole panel here. Stranded on an island with Brie Larson or Rachel Zegler?
Brie Larson.
I would take Brie Larson any day over her.
Yeah, Brie.
Brie Larson. Yeah.
She's gone up in our estimations these days, hasn't she?
Who knew? Who knew someone could outdo her in this?
She must be loving the fact that Rachel Zegler exists. You know?
Yeah.
Just keep talking, Rachel.
Yeah.
Joshua says, shout out to Rennie, Big Daddy, Lady G, Lance, and Mr. Brown, and the superb chat like Carrie D, Erin D, Piddly Widley, O Snakes, Joel Rios, Max Relax, Melvin Deeply, and many others. Hope that you're all healthy and doing well. That's from one of my mods there. So thank you very much, Josh. Stephen Bobo says, question for MauLer. What is the strongest magic in Dark Souls games, chronologically and game mechanics wise?
Oh, it's hard. I mean, do you mean like relative to each other for damage to bosses and stuff? It's kind of difficult to know. That's something for like Wikipedia forums. As much as I love the Dark Souls games, I'm not going to tell you like what the. It could be Dark Souls 2 for all I know, like some of the late game spells and all that shit. But yeah, I don't really know the answer to that. I imagine that all of them have spells that are super overpowered once you know how to use them and stuff.
Joshua says, any chance of a Mario Wonder EFAP or playthrough?
I think Fringy's playing it. I might. Metal might. I doubt there's going to be an EFAP over it. It's a Mario game. It's going to be really reliable, solid, probably like a 9 out of 10 in terms of mechanically entertaining, with a story about a plumber who's just trying to, make his way through a wonderful world.
Simple plumber trying to make his way in the universe.
Yeah.
Slack Attack says, question for the whole panel, Jaws or Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park.
I'd say Jaws. For me, just because the practical effects and the shark not working actually added to the film and the score.
I think in terms of the performances, I would go with Jaws. In terms of the overall product, the end movie, I'd probably go for Jurassic Park.
I love me some dinosaurs.
Jurassic Park's amazing. I have nothing but compliments for that film.
Remember when movies were smart, but they also married smart, like interesting ideas with cool action? That was cool. I like that. Slack Attack also says, Brett seems like a sweet girl, and I like her takes. I just hope that this isn't a purely reactionary response to Disney, and it turns out better than their Snow White. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it? Yeah, exactly right. I think it is kind of it's pretty obvious it's just a reaction to it, but yeah, it's just, is it going to have any merit by itself? Don't know yet. JK Fozel says, guess the movie from the quote, 30 seconds, God be with you. That's Saving Private Ryan, I think. That's when they're about to drop the ramps on the landing craft.
Well done. Under 5 seconds.
Thank you. Ghost of Drinker's Liver says, now that we're well into the Halloween month, any chance of a video on Renfield or Willy's Wonderland, or at least your thoughts on those films? Yes.
Willy's Wonderland is amazing.
It's a great... If you're really stoned or really drunk when you watch it, you will have a blast with Willy's Wonderland. It is a great, fun film. Totally ridiculous, and that's what makes it so good. Yeah, I am planning to review it this month. RRTNZ says, if it looks like, walks like, and flies like a duck, it's still whatever Chuck Norris says it is. Looking forward to your next happy hour. Cheers. Thank you. Not Kevin Feige says, can the long man be stopped by a deeper woman?
My God.
Only you.
I mean, can't be giving away secrets like that. It's between me and her.
That's like an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, really. Angry Batman says, open bar 69 on my 37th birthday. Fuck yes. Cheers to you all. Thank you, man, and happy birthday to you. Tom Blunt says, have you seen The Fall of the House of Usher yet? I haven't, but MauLer has.
Has anyone else here seen it?
No.
I haven't. I was going to, because I really, I like Edgar Allan Poe, especially The Raven. I've heard very bad things about it.
As far as I'm aware, if you're a big Poe fan, stay away. But the thing is, this gets complicated, because if you're a big Haunting of Hill House book fan, you wouldn't like his show. But at the same time, I don't know how many people here have seen it, but it's rated pretty highly by people typically who just take it as a show and ignore the source. So this is the complicated thing. I'm familiar enough to know like the Telltale Heart and the Raven and stuff, but not beyond, like, I don't know it like in a personal way, if that makes sense. So watching the show, I didn't go like, hey, you fucked up the spirit of this story, or you've gone against this, or you've misunderstood this. I didn't know enough about it to have those feelings, but I've read reviews and a lot of people have said like this shit's on Poe's work, or I see that 9 times out of 10. There's the one guy out of 10 who says like, no, this is a great adaptation. It's a great modern retelling of Poe's work. So can't promise you'd be happy with it on that regard. But if you've got barely any familiarity with Poe's work, as far as I can tell, you'll like it. So there's that. Great performances. Flanagan's brought back all of his typical actors that do a really good job. It's much more violent and overtly scary, I would say, than his previous shows, which is a criticism he's had before. It's got some supernatural aspects. It's very story driven, very character driven, and it's funny. A lot of people assume it took inspiration from Succession. The premise, at least without spoiling anything that even is said in episode 1, there's a big patriarch of a family and a company who's reaching the end of his years, and he's got a family of 6 children who've all got their respective projects that are trying to vie for sort of more power and influence in the family and stuff, and they're very obsessed over what will happen with his will. But I say all of this knowing there's something of a realization within the first 10 minutes about the fate of those 6 children. I'd recommend it, especially if you liked Hill House, Bly Manor, and Midnight Mass. You'll like this. That's an easy sort of buy-in. But Poe fans, be careful. You may not be happy.
I'd be curious to see Director X's take on Edgar Allan Poe. That could be really interesting.
Come on, give us an adaptation, Director X.
Yeah, come on, Director X. Go.
This one just came in actually from Sonny Close, who says, why the low opinion of Alien versus Predator 2? It has the best Predator ever. It's a pretty self-aware movie. The acting is terrible, but it makes it more satisfying when they die. The fact that it's self-aware makes it even shitter, in my opinion. Okay. A Predator movie shouldn't be self-aware, and it shouldn't be self-deprecating.
As someone who was very young when the AVP stuff was coming out, so it's like the perfect demographic, I still hated the Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Couldn't fucking see anything, for one thing. The writer was like god-awful. There was like no characters to get attached to at all. But the thing about what I'll give them, I did kind of, there's pieces I like of the Predator in that one. He seems a lot more rogue and badass, and he's like a veteran. And you there's a couple of things I like what they do with him in that film as a sort of like addition to some Predator stuff, but at the same time, it's something I would strike from canon immediately if I had the choice.
Yeah.
Didn't the pizza guy go off and murder someone as well? I think
the pizza guy.
Yeah, the pizza boy actor. Pretty certain he went off and murdered someone.
Oh shit!
Well.
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm like dead serious. I'm pretty certain something like pretty tragic happened. Very serious. I could have sworn he murdered someone. Maybe ran someone over or something like that. The chat will probably correct me, but yeah.
Another reason to dislike the movie in that case, but yeah, just never enjoyed it. The first Alien versus Predator just absolutely didn't live up to the premise, and the second one just made it even worse. The weird, especially at the end, I always remember those shitty attempts to tie it into the Aliens movies with like the Weyland-Yutani Corporation and the alien artifacts they've recovered. It's like, oh, fuck off. Garbage.
They put the spear thing that the Predator and the Human made in AVP into the Predator. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was weird. The continuity is all over the fucking place in those films.
I hated that.
Predator
That's a
1 and
franchise.
2, they can be canon. That's it.
Yeah, and Alien 1 and 2. That's it. That's all I need.
We'll just leave it there. Terminator 1 and 2. That's
4 good movies. 6 good movies. There you go. That's pretty good. Chucksenhausen says, R.I.P. to Burt Young. Hit the one in the middle. Yep. Passed away yesterday, I think it was. Paulie from the Rocky movies. Great character actor. Obviously had an extremely long career. Weirdly, he was the only actual real boxer from any of the Rocky movies. Or at least like the initial ones. And yeah, sad to see him go. But I didn't realize he was 82. So he's not that much older than Stallone, but he looked like, especially in the first movie, he looked about 10, 15 years older than him easily. So, oh well, he lived a life. But yeah, sad to see him go. Taker610 says, did you guys notice that Ahsoka kind of Vadered as well? She jumps off her ship to fight Balin, then says she doesn't have time for this. What? What the fuck?
Yeah, that didn't make any fucking sense. That whole scene is bizarre. Did Balin know she was going to drop there, or did she drop deliberately to get there, which didn't look like the case at all? And did she plan with Hu Yang to fire flares at Balin if she was to lose the fight to Balin that she didn't plan to have?
Well, MauLer, it was the will of the Force.
Oh, clearly. Shit. Sorry, I got it. Yeah, okay.
Sean needs to be.
Isn't it funny though? Like, all that stuff just gets overlooked by so many fans. They're just like, "Nah, it looks cool. That's great." Sean Spencer says, "Cheers, MauLer. We need an EFAP movie of Superman 78, the TV extended 3-hour cut, and the Donner cut now. The roster includes Drinker, Gary, Az, Rags, Meme, and Fringy."
Not an impossible thing. That does sound like fun.
We could do that. Samson the Mighty says, Drinker and Panel, if you had the chance to each write and direct episodes for a TV series based on one of your favorite video games, which would it be and why? Wow. It would be Tomb Raider or Resident Evil for me.
We've had that question a couple of times on Open Bar now, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. It's a regular one.
My stock answer is basically Dead Space, Bioshock, Soma. I could see these being adapted, these sort of sci-fi horrors into these in crazy atmospheric sort of environments that had places that were once kind of splendorous and impressive. I wouldn't mind a TV show showing it, but these are always under the thing of they're good. Assuming they're good. If they're going to be bad, fuck it. Let's not make it at all. Stay away.
So
Dead Space, I'd love to see that in a TV show.
Bioshock is great. So good.
Rapture, the Ishimura, and Pathos 2, they're all facilities I'd like to see in their prime. Would be cool.
Jordan Pendragon says, I'm more optimistic for the alternative Snow White, but honestly, I probably won't see either. I'm pretty much burned out on all of the remakes and reboots. Aren't we all? That's 90% of modern Hollywood, I guess. Samson the Mighty says, movie idea, a Predators sequel, but with a team of handpicked men to take on the Predators, must include Henry Cavill, Jason Momoa, Chris Hemsworth. Drinker and panel, choose who you want on the team. Who else would we add? I think you've named a lot of the good ones already.
Are we putting The Rock there, or is he not cool enough anymore?
Can we put Rachel Zegler in just so she can get killed in the first 2 minutes? The Rock's not cool anymore, no.
Okay.
Sorry.
What about Keanu Reeves?
He's always going to be cool.
Oh, yeah.
I would just put Tom Cruise in there as well because he'd be so fucking weirdly out of place in a Predator movie.
make him the
pilot
or whatever. Well,
he can be the pilot. He'll fly them in.
Yeah.
He can do that sort of thing, clearly. Fleam Gates says, I stand with Kyle Ben. He had to turn to the dark side to get enough power to kill Baby Yoda before he ate all of the students. The ones that were left fled with him, and the ones Baby Yoda ate were blamed on Kyle.
We need that Disney Plus show that explains why Kyle Ben is just such an angry man in the sequel trilogy, you know?
And he's just eating key lime pie while he talks about how he needs therapy.
Just so angry all the time.
It's a Loki season 2 reference. Just I didn't make that up. Yeah. I'm not that, good at writing. It's the D+ writers.
We all like to eat pie and talk about our feelings, I guess. Glippy says, had my 18th birthday last week, so now I need a recommendation for some alcohol. Give me something that will make me forget my troubles. How much time have you got? Yeah. What's your budget as well? Because when I was 18, I had fuck all money, hence the picture of me with Jack Daniels. But yeah, bourbon and cocoa usually get you drunk pretty quickly and effectively, and it probably won't give you a hangover either. Same with vodka, I think. So either of those two will be fine for you. And good luck to you, sir. Wayland Pacificus says, serious question. Tug McGroin or Paul McOck? What?
Well, that's pretty straightforward.
That was a weak one. Paul McOck. Nah, that's not very good.
He's giving you like 100. Let him have a shit, whatever.
Yeah, he's generally gold. Intelligent Crayon Eater says, now that Director X got his interview with Mr. H, I wonder if he could withstand the pure logic of the long man or the biting wit and sarcasm of a drunken Scotsman. I would love to see you interview him.
What in the world would I talk to him about?
Do a full-on unbridled rage on Robyn Hood. Go into insane detail. I don't care if it takes you to the next 2 years to make this video.
But that would mean I'd have to watch it.
It would be worth it.
Which would be cruel. That's a war crime, Drinker. You wouldn't want to commit a war crime.
Well, I'm flexible about these things. Glippy says, I also finished Buffy last week. Season 3 and 6 are the best, and season 4 made me want to light myself on fire.
People really hate season 4. There's stuff I like in season 4. Those are good episodes. Adam sucks as a villain, though. I'll give you that.
Mr. Tickle Trunk says, Open Bar 69, the greatest of milestones. It truly is. I think we all feel special on this panel right now. Honeylock says, I'm here. How much of them being late did I miss? We were only 4 minutes late. Give me a break. Did pretty well tonight. Glippy also says, last one, thank you all for the laughs over the years, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. Thank you very much. Jay Fraser says, I'm looking forward to Daily Wire's fantasy show, The Pendragon Cycle, based on Arthurian legend. It's a passion project for CEO Jeremy Boring, who took a leave of absence to co-direct the 7-episode series.
Very nice.
Fair play. I mean, well, hopefully they do a good job with it. Discordian says Matthew Vaughn is wanting to reboot Star Wars.
I just saw that. No, go away. And I like you, Matthew Vaughn, in terms of your creations. Don't do that. Don't tell me you want to remake Star Wars.
T1S says, hell yeah, 69 boys. Where's Tatiana? She'll be here after the stream. Istari Azul says, I really think you'd be great in adult animation form. Hope Netflix or HBO make an offer as becoming a fun daydream. I think would be epic. Well, who knows what will happen. Will Allen says, love you and MauLer's perspective on movies and stories. Live long and you know the rest. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it. Roger Rubio says, always enjoy Baggage Claim being here. Drinker, MauLer, enjoy a slice of Loki key lime pie on me. Good to see you again, Chris, Gore, and Mr. H. Hello to you.
We can talk about our feelings as well.
Yeah. Kind of want key lime pie now. Actually, I haven't had that in years. It's probably shit, actually. From I remember it being better than it was. Castigan says, everyone is too good looking, especially MauLer.
Oh,
what can you do, eh? We assemble people based on looks for these panels. That's all it is. Ancient Slug Thrower says, if Director X is in the chat, I want him to know that I spent £5 for the opportunity to call him corny. Scathing. Master of Puppets says, part 1 of 3. Hail Drinker and panel. It's my birthday today, and what a way to spend it. Thank you for all the many hours of entertainment, and looking forward to many more open bars, EFAP, and Real BBC. Cheers. Thank you, man. Happy birthday. See if we can find his other 3. Drinker, you have inspired me to write my own books, just as a hobby. I'm having trouble coming up with titles for my fantasy trilogy. Any advice or tips? Thanks. You're definitely asking the wrong guy, because the title for my books is literally the last thing I do before I send it off to a publisher. So I'm notoriously terrible at writing titles. So I don't know, especially for a fantasy novel, I do not know how you go about naming those things. It's outside my wheelhouse, I'm afraid.
AI.
Yeah,
there you go.
Do that. That wasn't an option back in the day. The last one he had was MauLer. After rewatching your Multiverse of Madness video, you should read WOT, or Wheel of Time, or have Shad or Disparu explain the portal magic. I think you would enjoy it a lot. I also recommend you play Control, a really good game. Cheers.
I will be playing Control eventually as part of the Alan Wake stuff. And I hear Wheel of Time is fantastic. So
the mechanics of Control are great fun. The plot makes absolutely zero sense. But
what?
Maybe I was too drunk when I played it and I just didn't understand it. I'll do a couple more and then finish up. Kevin O'Neill says, I feel obligated to share a quote from a good Robin Hood movie now. I know which one this is going to be. Luxley, I'm going to carve your heart out with a spoon. R.I.P. to Alan Rickman. Great one, man. Thank you.
Best line.
Yeah. Jay's favorite tuna says, Hail Drinker, scanning in for the 199 praise. Hurrah. Thank you. Ben Patterson says, if anyone was wondering how this impacts normal people, I applied for a job today and they asked my gender, of which there were 60 plus to choose from, and also my sexuality. I just hope you picked the right one.
I wonder how crazy they get in that 60. What if dinosaurs in there or something?
Well, if it's not, then I would kick up a stink. You know? How dare you deny my lived experience? If I see myself as a T-Rex, then who are you to judge? Sergey Pinto Walsh says, Hollywood doesn't understand art, unlike me, artist and collector Gay Pinto Walsh. Okay.
Gay Pinto Walsh is quite respected in the art circles at this point. Very famous producer.
Oh, shit. And I just totally brushed that off there. Whoops. Sorry.
I'm kidding, by the way.
Well, it should be.
Gay Pinto Walsh drinker.
How do you know, though, MauLer?
Because I invented that name.
Alexandra Ostrowska says, remember this Family Guy joke where they made a Disneyland slide in the shape of Disney stock? Well, it's not a joke now because it's going to have to go underground. Shit, I can't pronounce this one. Fakil McKees says, Brie Larson has awesome boobs. Okay. That's literally it. Yeah. Hades Primera says, since you all are fans of Ahsoka and Saw, I got a question for you guys. Who's smarter, Jigsaw or Thrawn?
They both cope like crazy about their operation, but I think Jigsaw has to be the smarter one. He actually gets to kidnap all those people successfully and put them through the traps.
I mean, he's still winning after he's dead.
That's true.
Thrawn can't even win when he's alive.
And remember, Jigsaw got to walk into the sunrise, a happy man, at the end of one of these Saw films. So.
With a kid under his arm. That's not the image you want for Jigsaw, man.
It's so weird. But, like, yes, he's probably smarter. But don't worry, Thrawn will be back in more Filoni projects, and I'm sure he's going to impress us all with more writing, as he calls it.
It's Thrawn. He's back, and he's dumb. Lord Wahoo says, just finished Dark Harvest. Sadly, the only one of your books that my library has got. You should get... Does that mean that it's shit? You should get MauLer to narrate the audiobook of your next project. Well, I could, but then it's probably going to be like 500 pages long, and I'm sure MauLer's got better things to do. But
well, and to be fair, I'm not a professional. The guy you probably old woman that you would hire to do such things would probably be much better suited for it. But
nobody has got a more silky smooth voice than you, MauLer. And Ruben Cruz Tokar says, previously, new characters in the MCU were a slow reveal to excite the fandom. Now characters like Photon are a crappy scavenger hunt through a backlog of shows for a prize that you don't really want in the first place. That is such a good fucking explanation for what they are.
Yeah.
Photon, the hero that nobody asked for or wanted or cares about.
Or knows of.
Yeah, but we got her anyway. Anyway, on that bombshell and that upbeat note, I'm going to finish up there for the evening. But I want to say to my panel, thank you guys for coming on tonight. It's been a pleasure to have all of you on again. I really appreciate you giving up your time for this. And thank you to all the lovely people in chat and the channel members that have joined recently. Appreciate you guys. And thank you for all the people that have super chatted. If we've missed any tonight, which we definitely have, we're going to catch up with them as we always do. And thank you to my mods for doing the same awesome job that they always do. I appreciate you guys. And we will see you the next time. There's the links to everyone's channels are in the description. So please, if you haven't subscribed to Baggage Claim, Chris Gore, or Mr. H Reviews, give them a follow because they all produce awesome content. And I'll just check with you guys, really. Like, have you got anything coming up that you want to make us aware of? This is a great time to do it.
I'll go first. So I have a video coming out about Jada Pinkett Smith coming out on Monday. Got to talk about the nonsense that she's always coming up with about her marriage that no one ever asked for. And then after that, I'm going to have a video the Monday after that about how Hollywood does not understand women. So look out for that.
Nice.
And thanks so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure as always to have you on. Chris, Mr. H, have you guys got anything that you want to make us aware of?
Nothing to plug, but just a thank you for inviting me. Do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
Film Thread, we do live streams twice a week. We talk about a lot of movies you've probably never heard of, and then we skewer Hollywood when they deserve it, which is quite often. And I'll just say, may the force be with you. That's all I'm going to.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. What a perfect way to sign off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, that is all we've got for today. So go away now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.